What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Oop, got the echo on Whoopsie Daisy. Well, another fantastic intro. Nailed it. Awesome. Welcome to another episode of the True Fate Debate. I'm your host, Mr. Tribune, or for my good friend Skylar, all the globies out there, that is Mr. Tribune to you. Just kidding. All right. Without further ado, we'll go ahead and dive right on in. Appreciate everybody being here. First and foremost, noticed a big change today. I know earlier in the week I announced that we would be doing this around 10 p.m. as my schedule says. However, we have moved ourselves to prime time, or at least more prime time for me, I should say. Get to have a little bit more of my night at the end of it, possibly. We'll see how these things go. We have the True Fate Debate. We are here to discuss the end-all, be-all, ultimate truth. What happens to us after we die? What happens to the earth? What is the ultimate nature and truth of reality? What is it that we're supposed to be doing? All these things and more to be discussed. All right, but of course that does depend on you guys. It is an open panel setting, so let me go ahead and drop this link here. Rockfin first, of course, because you guys are legends over here. We got 4 legends: Jeremy Bird, Stephen Davies in the chat. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Let's go ahead and drop this for you folks over in the YouTubes. Legends. We got Jeremy Bird, Anson Howard, Harmon Walker. What is up, my friend? Just seen you over on FMX Radio, or the FMX channel. Wasn't doing the DJ show at that point, doing his open panels. Definitely recommend you check those out. They're going to be earlier in the day. Shifty Eyes Shady, Justin Johnson. What is up, my friend? Plain Reality. Green Chili Bear, Bill Wheel. We got you unhid, my friend. No worries. Mario C. Thomas Morgan. Simon F. Good evening, morning, or afternoon, depending on where you're at on the plane. James GP. Got Flatman X in the house. Yo, yo. What is up? We also got Riggs, John Hill, Lord Racer. All right. As long as Brenda isn't here, we are good. Remember, audience veto still applies. Any open panel, even my TikToks, we can do those audience vetoes. Absolutely hilarious. But keeps some order and things entertaining for you all. So we do appreciate that. Let's go ahead and get right on into it. I got the waiting room enabled. Let's check it out. Anybody sitting in there? We do. Of course, we have Brenda sitting in the chat as we speak. All right, guys. Here we go. So, we are going to go ahead. And he's got the puke face already. I'm so sorry, guys. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to initiate this chat here. Engage with the audience. Yes, let's go ahead and start a poll. Okay, ask the question. Keep or kick? Very simple. Oh, can't say that. Keep or kick because it's yes or no. Keep? No, let's just say kick. Yes or no? Kick them. All right. We're going to go ahead and ask the community. We're going to do a pre-audience poll special occasion. All right. We will give that like 5 minutes before we let them on. And if the answer is to kick, then unfortunately we won't bring them on. But it is not a true Earth debate, right? So who knows what they could bring to the table. They probably think that we just become nothing when we pass on into the great beyond. I think that's absolutely sad. It's a sad belief. Some people want to just not have any responsibilities, though, at the end, I feel. Or it's just like a good way to deal with it, right? It's like if you're not going to experience anything, then what's there to worry about, right? But I have, as somebody who has been outside of my body, I will say, I do tend to think that there's a soul or something that can exist separate. So then the whole conversation can ensue on what to do with that information. All right, we're skating on thin ice here. We're on 50%, which is the needed amount. Kick who? I missed it. Brenda? Yes, Bill. It would be Brenda. I'm doing a pre-audience poll. A pre-audience poll. Of course, we have FMX Radio. He's never even been close to voted off, so, I mean, he'll go ahead and slide right on in. All right, let's go ahead. What is up? FMX, connecting the audio. No worries. All right, let me get you pulled in. Kick who?
I'm trying to get this good. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You're loud and clear.
Yeah,
Well,
just had to download Zoom. Haven't played with Zoom on here, the new computer. All right, let's get this started, man.
heck yeah.
I'm down.
I did
I'm
want to
just,
shout out real quick the $10 donation that we just got over on Rockfin. We do appreciate that support. It goes a long way. Unexplored plane, very interesting indeed. Feel free to click on in and hop on the panel. Give us your thoughts in this discussion. 1 second. Couldn't fight the cough. All right. We'll go ahead and mosey right along. FMX, did you vote in the poll yet?
I did vote. I did vote.
What
I will
was your
keep
vote?
that classified, actually.
Classified vote. All right. No worries. Let's go ahead and check that out just real quick. Rennie Bernays really cannot stand censorship, but you do what you got to do, right? Listen, if the audience votes, right, and there's no secret, right? We know about Brenda.
The
And
people have spoken, huh?
recently, well, actually, I'll go ahead and throw this out too. Now, I can't point necessarily the finger, but it was a very weird coincidence that shortly after Brenda began engaging with us over on Discord, Shane, Allen, myself, all of our Discords got hit, and we no longer have them, so we had to start from scratch. Bummer. So, that could have been something to do with it, could have not been. Who knows? But right, the vote is to unfortunately kick Brenda. So,
Oh, such good entertainment, such good conversation, such genuine questions.
so genuine. Anyway, I do apologize. Unfortunately, you will not be able to attend the Zoom meeting. I will not. Just not gonna report you though. That's harsh. You didn't do anything wrong. You just didn't make it the cut.
Make the cut. The people have spoken. Unfortunately, your energy did not vibrate this day on Troubling Tribune.
Yeah, sad. I'll take one last look. That's 58% to kick. I can't.
Brenda does not have a
Can't.
champion among you.
I can't
It's
do
not
anything
able to
about
come.
that, guys. Can't do anything about that. But hey, what can you do, right? Chris, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me. Should be an awesome discussion. The thumbnail, it tells all, right? We have the true fate debate. A lot of times it boils down to, well, I can't say boil down, but when these conversations get brought up, the first steps into it are basically between the three pillars, which I would consider Eastern philosophy, Western philosophy, and atheism. So I really don't. Is there somewhere that I'm missing?
No, that seems like the three major hit points right there. If we dig deep enough, we'll probably find a fourth somewhere. But let's start with those three. That's a good three.
Right. Absolutely. Go ahead and fill us in, I guess. Right. We've heard your conversations on this topic before, right? I think, if I've read you correctly, that you vibe more with the Eastern philosophy, with the left-hand path, if you will. But it's always better to hear the beliefs right from the horse's mouth. So go ahead and fill us in,
So,
my friend. What do you think is the ultimate truth?
well, I'm really vibing with the cosmic egg story. The idea that all this is a super fractal environment and reality in nature that very well could be and would seem very fair that if we share one mind, one true ultimate consciousness, God consciousness, that this very I don't want to use the word simulated life. That triggers too many people, but a very, very experiential one where God, prime creator, could experience everything would be to inhabit multiple vessels seemingly simultaneously through me, through you, through all of the listeners, past, present, and future. Time only exists in our mind. So for me, all this and more is just more evidence of us being in a almost type of reincarnation. I know a lot of people get triggered on that word as well for some reason, but energy only transfers and transmutes. It can never be destroyed. And we have dreams. I think they mean things, and we don't know enough about sleep itself, what we spend half of our life doing, and where we go consciously when we're unaware in our outer conscious. So everything is possible with me. Everything is on the table, and we get to choose outward consciously what we want to experience, and that entails where we elevate from there and who we meet, situations we find ourselves in, and the opportunities that open up in front of us. So we'll start off with a baseline there, for me anyway.
There you go. So just to play the devil's advocate, right? And to put a little stress on the worldview. Would you also say that with the reincarnation wheel, right, the infinite reincarnations, would you also say that there are multiple different universes where there are different possibilities? Is everybody creating their own little universe?
You know, it really, really, really seems like that at the moment. We downplay our own natural God given abilities. Not by accident, of course, by no means or fault of ours. But still, it really seems, in my particular perception, that everybody gets exactly what they truly believe it is. And they only get that and just that. As powerful as our words are, like we were talking about earlier, if the person you're sharing the words to is not vibrating at your level, rather that be higher or lower, they will only misconstrue what you were trying to reveal to them, and because at their capabilities they only have the which they earned at that time of awareness to be able to hear and gather that information and discernment in their own degree. So in their heads, even if it's something remarkable or unremarkable to you, could be a eureka moment for them. So everybody gets that on like a baseline level. The religious people get the religion that they feel most inclined to vibrate with, and it goes that way across the plane. Even the atheist, everybody gets what their core beliefs says is their ultimate truth. It not might be the absolute truth, because Lord knows what that actually is, you know, but still, nonetheless, it seems that way across the board. Regardless what your belief system is, that is what you're going to experience because you believe it.
Gotcha. Would you say that there's an equivalence between experience and like reality, or is it some sort of illusion? Would you say, and there is an actual reality to experience?
That is the question, huh? That is the matrix question. What is reality? Is it our senses? Is it what we perceive? Currently, to add on to what I just discussed, it is our decisions that we decide what reality is for us. Again, that doesn't make it absolute, but neither do yours for anybody else. The things that you consider absolute proof and tangible evidence and things that you vibrate doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be for others. There might be more validity to others than whatnot, but you are no one to force that upon others. And I think that's where a lot of conflict comes in, because that miscommunication, because of the misunderstanding of the conscious level of these individuals, we start seeing each other as stupid and incompetent and ignorant and dumb and lazy and blah, 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 all the different titles that we cast upon each other like dark magic spells, which is why words are so powerful. And we must be very much more patient in deciding which words we're going to deliver to a soul we wish to obtain a certain degree of knowledge to, if that is our goal. If our goal is just to fight with them, then yes, belittle them, keep making fun of them. Even behind their backs, tell them that they're stupid, or that their friends are stupid for not listening, or they come from a stupid family of ignorant people, and blah, blah, blah. Curses. Words are powerful. And for good or bad, we use them all the time.
Well, let me again to play devil's advocate, right? So if it is this concept of we're kind of creating or manifesting our own personal reality, then why couldn't it be the case that I could manifest a reality in which I could completely change people's minds? Like, what stops me from being able to just snap my fingers and being the ultimate god of the reality, right? Once you have the realization in theory, right? It's like, okay, I'm aware, I've meditated. Um, what's stopping me from just having this be a complete lucid dream?
If I would have some type of hypothesis, some just educated guess or uneducated guess, I don't know. I would imagine that the great programmer, the creator of the realm, would set in safety protocols so we don't get too ahead of ourselves and accidentally destroy the world with a thought. For we know this has already happened, that the first creations of men were so powerful, so in tune with reality and manifestations through thought, and only spoke when they wished to bring something into physical reality, that they learned a lesson and was like, yep, I'm going to reset that one, start over again, put in some safety protocols and measurements so that doesn't happen again, so forth, the Tower of Babel and all the different stories. So, but I don't know. I don't know. And it could be anything really. That's just the first thing that comes to thought.
Gotcha. Yeah, the way that and I agree with a lot of what you say. The way I see it is that it's kind of like a will game, and not to sound like shallow or egotistical, but it's just when you're, here's a good way to put it, in sports, right? I did wrestling. I know people who did football, soccer, doesn't really matter. Regardless of what the sport was, if you were, I won't even say professional, right? Like there's like, that's way over the limit of what you need to achieve, to achieve this state. But um, basically man, I'm starting to lose my train of thought. Basically, the idea of who wants it more will come out victorious, and you can actually feel the energy of your team. You can feel the energy of the opponent, and you get a good idea of if you're going to win or lose, right? Almost like sizing up, if you will, but it's something beyond just the physical, right? So that's one way that I can compare it, or to recognize um, the competitive aspect, right? The will aspect. It's a, as Alex Jones put it, not to steal his words, but I mean he did put it really well, which was that it's a animated contest of liberty. And the way that I see that, I mean, it's hard to disagree with that.
Alex Jones does say some pretty remarkable and profound things at times, whether he's the one who comes up with it or not. He's a very entertaining character. It's no surprise he's lasted as long as he did, regardless if he backtracks or not. Entertainment at its highest form. And he knows this, I'm sure. Many documentaries and movies he's made over the years, he realizes that it's entertainment that gets you through the majority of people. And screaming like a lunatic seems to help too. So there's that.
And then I do come back to the idea, right, that, if there's this creator that set in these protocols, then it would still lead me to believe that everybody's reality that they're creating would be in some way a lesser or false, you could even say false reality compared to the grand will of the creator. And that would give some credence to the, I don't remember which verse it was in the Bible, where the people were being told that, don't follow the other mighty ones, their kingdom is in nothing, right? And it's not that they don't have something to sell, right? Otherwise, people wouldn't be going with it. But right in the end, in the ultimate end all be all, it's like there's nothing of substance there. So, would there be some sort of truth to that? You think, or is the reality that we all create, individual or collective, would you consider that just as real as the baseline reality that this creator would be from?
I'm conflicted. I could feel both.
These are the tough questions. This is why we
Right.
do
Yeah,
this.
this is the fun one. Yeah, these are the fun questions. For me to stay on the, I guess what I vibe with is that both has to be possible. And how it works, that would be amazing to find out. Even an inkling, 10%, a percent of how any of this truly works. We would probably learn a whole 10 generations worth of technology in the future if we could figure this one out. but I don't know. I don't truly know, and I don't pretend to. That's a big one. What are people in the comment section? We got to have some comments on this. What do they think? I can't really see them from the Zoom menu.
Sorry, bro. They're still talking about kicking Brenda.
Oh, good. That is really important. I'm glad we're still on that.
No, that's been decided. 67% kick. No way. Guys, in response to that, it would mean a lot to me if you would smash that like button, but not too hard. You still need to use your phones and computers, and you wouldn't want to break that being too excited, right? But be sure to smash that like and definitely share the show. That way we can get an even more diverse panel, get some more opinions in here. I would really like for someone like Bill Wheel, or somebody from the more Western, more I call it Western, but it's actually not, right? The Abrahamic faith. I would really like to have somebody from that denomination hop in and give their perspective, because at best,
Bill
right
does
now,
look like an Abrahamic faith type of dude. He's got that Moses beard on. Come and show off that beard, man. Look like that ancient, holier than thou beard. Come on, man. Bring your butt up here.
absolutely. Hold on, let me pin the. I just realized that I did not pin the link. Slacking hard as hell. All right, hold on. Everybody's gonna get to just get a look real quick. Yeah, please add some music, but nothing that's gonna get me copyright struck, right?
Nah, I got you, homie. I got you.
Sick.
I leave the copyright strike for my channel.
We've worked hard. It's been a long year, but we did it, guys. It's all thanks to you, and thanks to the Melodome crew, Jeranism. That was actually the first bump that I got, was that Jeranism bump. But as I was saying, definitely like, share the show. Let's keep this thing going, and let's get some thoughts from the what do I want to call that? What's the term? From the Tribune tribe over in the comments, right? Couldn't call you the panel. This is the text panel, but that doesn't sound good. I'll work on it. Working title. Yeah, we already know. I've heard from a lot of you guys, but definitely give us your opinions, right? What do you think the ultimate truth of mankind would be? What are some of the answers to these tough questions? Why always one? Why only one creator? We have been hammered in the West that there is only one. That is a profound thought as well, Harmon. I would say that the reason why we break it down to one would be a degrees thing, right? We're basically trying to find the ultimate degree, the biggest archetype, right? And so if there were other creators that created this reality, we would then ultimately assume that, well, something had to create these creators, and we would go up the line until we find the, just like the atom, the uncuttable, we find the uncreatable, right? What is the thing that has no creator and shares no esteem, right? That's the way that I see it. So, and that's why we usually talk about like the one creator. But again, that goes back to the validity of realities. Is there multiple realities? Is this just a lie nonsense to get us all infighting over different possibilities so that we never just accept the basic obvious truth that was told to us in the book? I love to play both sides of the fence when it comes to the religious aspects, because I can see it from both sides, right? I can see the side of ultimate freedom. I am the end all be all. My thoughts create my reality, and my love for humanity and love for myself keeps everything in good balance with the negativity that goes on. And the negativity is there to teach me. That is one way you can see it. It's very egotistical, though. And then there's the other way of I have no power whatsoever. Nothing that I do really is really going to be the ultimate effect in comparison to a grand designer or a grand creator. And so my best interest would be to fall in line with this grand architect and try to create in line with this creation as is. I actually see it split right down the middle, if you want me to be honest with you. Creators with a creator. Oh, we lost your sound, FMX.
No, I didn't say anything yet.
Oh, sorry. I saw your thing spinning. I assumed music was playing. Shout out to Justin Johnson with the super chat, super sticker. What the heck is that? I don't know. Much love, my friend. And while we're at it, I'll take this chance to go ahead and plug the memberships, guys. We have three different types of membership shows that are going to be coming soon. We posted a post about it here, and so very soon those are going to be hitting the schedule. So be sure to get your memberships for that exclusive content. Of course, if you're on Rockfin, you will also be receiving that if you're a premium member. So we do appreciate the support over there as well. Or if you're over with the VIP, the Tribune VIP over on the website at tribune.com/VIP. All right, shameless plug over. FMX, fire away.
What happened? I lost
I
you.
put you right on the spot. Just,
Did.
here you go.
Not paying
All right.
attention.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I was just shamelessly plugging. My last thought on the subject was that it's a marriage. It's a false dichotomy, right? It's not either or. It's not we are the creators creating our own reality and that is what it is. Or there's a grand architect that we should fall in line with. I think that there is a grand architect. There is a best way to create, if you will, and a way to get the most bang for your buck, as well as the idea that we are creators and ultimately captains of our own ship, if you will, right? Um, Another way of saying it, freedom to navigate through the waters of destiny.
Statistically speaking, there would have to be, a God or even a Jesus at one point. Everything comes to pass. And the type of people, and you would have figured there's got to be at least one human throughout time who knew how to be human, like all the way human, like fully that understood other humans, who could speak the words that could resonate with masses of people and perforate their story through time. So much through time, it's been copied in different civilizations and societies. And it could be very well that they are mimicking the same one, or it could be very well that they were all happening in their own times, the same type of story with different names, the same energy wave, the same signatures, the same tales. And it's still here, the ultimate hero's journey. So you can either adapt it, become part of that story and make it a part of your own, or you can shun it, put it out, and try to figure it all out yourself. That seems quite the task to obtain.
Be a champion or be a wussy.
Pretty much. Pretty much. There's no being stagnant. Stagnancy is just a way of slowly dying, losing.
That's true. Entropy, falling victim to that, if you will, makes the most sense to me. One of the things that when we get into entropy that comes up, um, when because and this comes up a lot of times with Melodome too. He's like, man, when I die, I don't think that there'll be any part left of this, right? I'm gonna go back, be energy, do something else, reincarnate into something else, whatever have you, right? We don't really know, or maybe it's just nothing, right? And I find that pretty funny because he brings up then, well, where are all the ghosts, right? If there is this afterlife, right, or we have this spirit that will go on afterwards, then where is all these ghosts, right? Why aren't they just piling up? We don't have just massive amounts of spectral energy and ghosts just everywhere. And I would I chuckle because I say, well, how do you know that there's not? For one, you're just have a limited range of, and I say you condescendingly. That's incorrect. Actually, it's we, right? We have a limited range of perception when it comes to most things, and it's only with very active effort and meditation are you able to expand this awareness even a little bit, right?
Yeah, and I think that's part of the safety protocols that God put in us intentionally, so we don't mess around and hurt ourselves or open up doorways that should not supposed to be open. So yeah, I think us not believing in such a thing is in essence a way of helping protect the average person. So the elite hypnotist magicians of the world who can have armies and countries of people doing what they say with a couple of political words know in essence that these traits are legitimate and that there's too many people to correctly explain it to have everybody on board on the same level, unfortunately. Even if the Illuminati was full of good guys, they would have their work cut out for them trying to save the world from their own demise, especially when half the people's ego so big they don't want to listen to anything outside of what they feel is already real. They have it down, and that goes for flat earthers too. There's a lot of egotistical flat earthers that they came into this information and now I think put themselves on a pedestal and belittle anybody who can't get the same information they have. And that, I think, for us is the next challenge that we undertake, so we don't become complacent in that mindset ourselves.
Very
Call
well
for
could be.
zero. What's up, brother?
What is up, my friend? Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. Can you hear us? Call for zero. Can you hear us? Probably not. Can't hear nothing. We can't hear you either.
Check your settings.
The settings.
I don't know how to. Got to send up a smoke sign for them. Settings.
I know, right? Yes. No, I'm not. That's not gonna work.
It is not like Restream. You can't send them a message in here, huh?
I just don't know how people can't figure out the Zoom. It's just one of the easiest things ever. One more time, right? All right. Excuse me. One more time. Call for zero. Going the third time.
Got his video up, but he don't have his mic connected. It said, there you go. This is mic connected.
Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, I think I got it figured out here. Hey, good to see you, FMX, Tribune, everybody in chat. Having a good day here in Las Vegas. It's starting to warm up. It's getting near 100 degrees every day now. And anyways, I signed on about 10 minutes ago and I heard you talking a little bit about like what reality is and reincarnation specifically. And, we're all trying to figure it out, especially with, we know oceans are missing the convexity is supposed to be there. Mandela effect is like fluid switching everything up on us. And we don't know if half of history is even, close to as presented. But, as you know, Tribune, back in the year 2000, 2001, I performed mediumship readings. I've done several aura readings since then. And in 2010, 2011, I actually took it to locations, such as hospitals and graveyards and morgues and different haunted houses, different things. And I've communicated with hundreds of spirits and I would say dozens of entities. And, we all have our guess on, okay, when we die, what happens? Oh, when we were in that bad wreck, did we die and then suddenly find ourselves okay and, switch out or come back or, we don't really know. But what's throwing the wrench in it for me is I've spoken with so many, I guess they're real, who knows at this point, spirits and entities and recorded clear voices on like digital recorder with no crazy equipment, no like radio sweeping and stuff like that, where I'm hearing people talk. I've even heard one guy sing. So that kind of throws a wrench in that whole reincarnation thing. But I just wanted to throw that into the mix and, maybe add that to the convo.
I'm so glad that you brought up this, right? This is one of the things that makes it very well worth the discussion. And the thing is that I'm also a firm believer that two things can be true at the same time, right? That it is true that reincarnation is a thing, while also it being true that spirits and existing in a form outside of the flesh is possible, right? And I think that the evidence of this, it's well, on the reincarnation side, it's difficult, right? Because we're dealing with anecdotal evidence at best, right? At absolute best. You have to rely on the stories being true, there being no coaching from the parents, and there's really no way to guarantee that. But that aside, there are lots of stories of children and even adults that claim to remember a past life that can go back and show things that somehow seem to verify that. Although, again, there's ways that you can fake it, I'm sure, but that's beside the point. So there is that. And then there is the very real phenomena of disembodied entities existing in your research that you found. And I know that you're not the only one doing that type of research. And I myself have experienced my fair share of spiritual happenings. So there's no doubt in my mind that that is a thing as well. The question then for me would become, well, what would be the difference between what happens? What's the dynamic? Why did why did Susie become a ghost and Paul reincarnate? How long is that process? What determines the main differences of it? And these are stuff that I find would be almost impossible to prove without doing some ridiculously unethical testing, which I would never recommend. But just we'd be in a place where I don't know if we could prove it, but I think that we could get enough anecdotal evidence to get a good idea, right? Same thing, and the reason why I could go with that is, I've never been to France, but enough other people have been to France that I can safely say that France is a thing, right? It's real. So that's how I logically put that out.
Go ahead, FM.
In the simulation games, The Sim, you do have both. You have exactly what you just described. You have little ghost simulations running around where the regular Sims can't see them. And you yourself as the player Sim can die and reincarnate into another Sim. So I am 100% with you. I believe both is possible and inevitable inside of a hyper fractal simulation of a reality we seem to find ourselves in, that all levels of plane of existence is probably a thing. And again, it falls back onto the mental capacity and the awareness and the belief, the core belief of each individual and what they're actually experiencing. We could be living along people that we consider NPCs or reptilians or non-humans, when in all actual reality, it could be as simple as, no, they're vibrating just enough where we can see their physical 3D shell, their vehicle, their meat suit, whatever. But what they're experiencing is leaps beyond what we're having. The discussions we're having wouldn't vibe with them, as they are waiting for the Galactic Federation to come in their reality. Who knows?
In 1998, I had a pretty bad motorcycle wreck. And immediately after, well, not immediately, maybe a month later, I went to a church and the Lord's Prayer changed. And that was the first indication, like something's not right. But, I don't know if I died. I don't know. I'm thinking it's likely. Okay. So then it comes to 2000, 2001, 2002, and I'm doing this mediumship, blah, blah. And I'm at this site where I am I give people a sample of like what it is on the website. It wasn't my site. I was just volunteering and, doing readings, mediumship, aura, stuff like that. Whatever came up, I would tell them. And I did it through, the best I could tell, a connection through the ether. And I don't even know how that works, except that I did take some natural healing and breathing courses. And when I incorporated all that into it, it seemed to like enable it to a degree. And it was like, people would ask me, how do you do it? And I said, I don't really know, but I think to legitimize it is there was no money involved, no payment. It was just done of free will. And there was some amazing results, some connections with, came up with names and different things like that. And up to 1998, before that accident, reality seemed a bit more solid, but I'm thinking, like you just said about the frequency, maybe my 1997 frequency was, say, step 2 of 10. And maybe I did die, and that put me into step 3. The spirits may be in step 4. Maybe that's where you start to pick them up. So I started to tune into that. Whereas in 1997, I had the barrier or the veil or whatever you want to call it. And I think that may be a part of it. But like I said, I don't even know if my contacts were like real, inserted, or simulated. I hate to say that word. I just don't know.
Well, the New Agers seem to think that we're going into the age of Aquarius with the um,
Oh, we were
event.
coming out of the age of Aquarius.
No, we're going into it.
We're
We're in
still
the.
going into it. How long does it take to get in this?
I know, right? So right now we were in the age of Pisces, right? Or we were in the age of Pisces. Maybe we just came in. I'd have to go back and check, right? Pisces was the
All
age
these are
of.
boring. Just waiting for the good, cool Taurus ones to come around.
Oh man, where it's just straight war all the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we have Pisces, which is like the two fish. It's a split. It's supposed to be the age of illusions, and I think this is just a justification for, what some would call this being the Kali Yuga. The age of deception and chaos, where it seems to reward liars and things like that, and people who go out and try to establish truths are looked down upon and persecuted. So that's the age that we've been in or we're in. And then Aquarius is the water bearer. He's just pouring it all down, right? In other words, the heavens coming down to the earth, the waters above coming down to the waters below, and basically bringing all of the esoteric truths to the forefront, to common knowledge, or as the Christians would say, it's just written on our heart at this point. Everybody just knows it. That would be why people are just waking up all of a sudden, because they're trying to blame it on the stars. I don't really think that it has to do with the astrological symbols so much. I mean, maybe that has a little bit to do with it, but I think it's more of. Is my sound bad? Oh crap!
No, it's good.
Oh, it's FMX then.
What I do?
Oh, never mind. You sounded like you said something, and then and then there was nothing. So I was like, "Oh crap! Is my headset doing that weird thing where it disconnects and ruins the show?"
You're ruining the show right now, just so you know.
I don't give a crap. All right. Well, in any case, I forgot what I was even saying.
You were telling us about the Nostradamus ways that you have set up for us.
I forgot. What can you do? So you weren't even listening, Chris. Wow.
No, hey, I'm behind the scenes. I can read the chat now that I'm not hosting the show.
That's super funny. Awesome.
Yeah, and what I find interesting is that some of the spirits I was able to contact seem to be resident. Like I would ask almost every contact, "Are you always here, or do you leave sometime?" And I don't think I received one response in like all those years where it said, "Oh yeah, I go home, I go to my house, or I go to like Los Angeles and I come back." And never, they're like, "Here, I'm here."
They didn't sound too happy about it, huh?
And that makes you wonder, like, what is that? 6 decades, 8 decades? Like, how long does that go? And they realize that they're still there. It just makes you think.
I wonder, they either asked for that experience or they did something really messed up to deserve it, perhaps.
I don't even think it's that. I think it's just a thought loop, right? So, have you guys ever taken hallucinogens?
We've dabbled in such things.
Yeah, my last experience beyond CBD and THC was at least 25 years ago, but I tried that mind expanding path, and it did help. It helped to like break down walls and realize that reality is wider than NPC reality.
Right. Perception definitely adds a lot to it. When you can see more of the spectrum, if you will, and obviously not just, maybe it is just a light spectrum, right? Maybe everything is electricity, right? That's sort of just a lot of evidence that seems to be bringing towards that. I was working off of a running theory that there was actually two forces. There was electricity, magnetism, those forces, and then there was consciousness. But now I'm starting to believe that maybe it's all part of the same thing. There is studies that are coming out when you get past Robert Monroe's research, which is very surface level, doesn't really tell you everything about it, and it tries to say that it's all about the sound, like the somatic frequencies, which plays an important role. But excuse me, according to the I'm trying to remember the guy's name. There's some more research that was done that shows that it was actually the magnetic fields coming off of the equipment that was causing the mind-altering effects. So if our consciousness is directly affected by magnetism or by these electric fields, then maybe they're more intrinsically related than I thought. But that is an assumption, right? Could be just fallacious thinking.
That's interesting, because when I was doing my mediumship, I was trying to figure it out. Like, every one of us is a tinkerer, and I'm high on that scale. I was wondering if it may be like even the screen blink rate, like the hertz, that if that blink rate ties into it. And I'll add one thing. While I was doing this, and I was practicing often, like at least 7, 8, sometimes 10 readings a week. So I was getting, my muscles were built up. It was easy. It was very easy. I tried to take human growth hormone. It's like a muscle. It was like a trying to build muscle and that kind of stuff. It was just like, I'm going to try it. And I went like almost psychically blind on that stuff.
Jeez.
So it may not all be electrical, it may be chemical, but I was like, I'm like, wow, I can't see a thing. I'm out. And then I cut it out, and like, I don't know, the next week I was okay, but it was a factor.
Even chemical breaks down to electrical, synapses. When it gets in the digestive system and your body starts breaking it down to the molecule level, it will mess with your frequency depending on the drug. So yeah, that's crazy, man.
I do want to shout out Anson Howard with the 10-pound donation. Thank you very much for the super chat. All the donations do go a long way. If you guys are wondering the best way to donate without donating to ScrewTube, and you don't have a Rockfin account, then the best way would be the Cash App, MrTribune. Much love. We do appreciate it. But yeah, folks, let's go ahead and keep this conversation rolling.
Yeah, and Tribune, like I mentioned, I think I was on with you a couple months ago, and I was talking about the idea of like what was brought up earlier about the life, death cycle. And we may not know, we've been so 180-degree turned away from reality and from truth that all this, like the funerals in the Vatican, and they're gone but not forgotten, and all ashes to ashes and all that. We're just so programmed, like, okay, next, like, you're out, that kind of thing, that we're even there, we can't even consider that we're like just taking steps forward one after another through these cycles. And it makes you wonder, how many are there, since there are no 120-year-old people around? There must be a reset point or a limit.
Actually, I just read a story. I just read a story about somebody who passed back in like 2010 or something that was 122 years old.
Okay. Well, yeah, around then. I know that the last person born in the 1800s died about 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. So It's kind of like how it goes.
I'm looking forward to seeing what 100 years old feels like. I don't plan on being one of those old decrepit people you push around a wheelchair. Neither. Get your ass away from me. I'm walking. And I'm going to be picking fights while I'm driving my Corvette like 105 miles an hour. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
Heck yeah.
And FM, are you into the alive again phenomenon tied into Mandela effect, where it seems like some celebrities have like cycled back in at a later date?
I've seen this. I've seen such a thing.
Any idea on that? Or
well, I try to look at it. This is, I don't know, probably like logistics for me. In the world of programming, especially when you're using assets over and over again, you'll recycle them in after so long, so the players don't even realize you're using the same assets. So how many variations of humans can we have? There's already 8 billion of us walking around right now. How many variations of us can you have? There's a lot. There's not 8 billion a lot, though. So after a while, you're going to see the same faces, the same structure, speaking different languages, a slightly different skin tone. So I don't think, chemistry, God, and divine intelligence, is just don't really have a choice. It is what it is. And any more deviation than what we got, we're not going to be looking human anymore. We're going to be start looking like some animorphs and shit. So this is kind of what we get when you have so many, people walking around with pretty much the same DNA or, skeleton structure. It's just, you're going to get variations. That's why all the monkeys pretty much look the same to us. And I would imagine to the monkeys, we pretty much look the same to them. It's just variations of hairstyles and whatnot. It's really nothing you can do. It's just logistics. That's just part of it. How it's got to be. How many times I've gotten in my life, you remind me of my cousin. You remind me of this guy. At one point, motherfuckers thought I looked like John Leguizamo for some reason. I guess it was a period in my life. I don't know. But I'm sure everybody has stories like that. It's just part of being alive, existing here in this wide range of frequency existence. You're going to have vast categories of very similar featured individuals, so therefore, especially in the same bloodline or even outside, we don't really know how these bloodlines are connected technically or how they actually operate. We only know what they tell us through genetics. But if it's more on frequency, like thought and memory, that it could just be genetic memory passed down through the ether itself, because a certain soul wants to reincarnate and maybe he wants to look similar to what he looked like last time, but experience this new timeline in the same body. Could be many things. Not everything has to be evil or clones. I'm really taking that clone crap away from Clone Aid and Clone X and all these clone companies. I think they're full of crap. I think they're like NASA, and they're just showing us a whole bunch of freaking AI crap and computer generated. Like, yeah, we make all these two-headed turtles with wings and stuff. And
I don't know, man. There's some rando on TikTok who apparently has this whole gimmick where he just clones people, right? And people will challenge it. It's like, well, you can't clone me, and they'll like spit on a pole or something, and the dude like, oh yeah, and he'll go find the place, and he'll supposedly like scrape it up, and then go and then there'll be an embryo in a petri dish.
Fantastic production. Probably. I'm sure 1,000 people would come to watch that. I would. That sounds very entertaining. But as far as him actually doing it, no. I'll believe it when I see it. And even then, I don't even know I can believe half the shit I see nowadays, just because that's the world that we live in.
Hey, Harmon, how you doing?
Mr.
Good,
Walker,
sir. How you doing?
Good, fine.
welcome to the show. I was just about to address your comment.
Which one?
The molecular level. What is it? What do you mean by the molecular level?
Ask him.
Yeah,
Harmon believes in all this weird stuff that you can't see, things you can't believe.
Right. I just mean like what people would conceptualize as like that smallest whatever the heck, right? Whether it be a materialistic atom or a wave function dynamo, a little tiny.
No, I wasn't
toroid.
asking you. I was asking Flatman.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, I missed it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wait,
Does he mention? He says that it's all on the molecular level, and I'm saying, what level is that?
Oh yeah, see, this is the continuation from our discussion earlier, everybody. If y'all didn't catch that, check out the discussion me and Harmon had about a few hours ago on my page, man. It got really deep, really good. Even had Karen and some of the big people in there putting their opinions down. Definitely gonna have to do a round two of that, buddy. That was a good one. But yeah, the molecular level, I mean, obviously it's there because the scientists said so. So, they wouldn't lie for money. Everybody knows that people don't lie for money. I mean, come on.
Lord Racer.
I like it that you did actually listen, and you actually more than listened, you understood. You remembered the words I said, so that's the difference.
Oh, 100, brother. I'm vibing with you, brother. I'm vibing with you. I'm on you. Gotcha.
I do want to say, Lord Racer, it's coming, my friend. You just got to be patient, right? We're going to do the membership dance, right, as soon as we hit our 100th member, right? So you guys
don't be moving the goalposts on everybody. Man.
I'm not moving the goalposts at all. I said we would do a members-only stream. I never said when.
I was the one that left you that $10 on Rockfin that said it was a unexplored plane or whatever. I used it. I forgot I used a different name. I didn't change it back. You can change your names all the time on that.
I did not know that. That's awesome.
Oh, it's really you can change. I can change it right now. You can just change your chat name anytime you want, picture and everything.
Yeah, I need some time to learn how to dance, Lord. Otherwise, I'm just going to make a fool of myself, and then I'm going to lose all my members.
Whole point. No, you will gain members with a nice little 1-2 shake and put your.
I'm not wearing the dress, damn it. Pardon my language.
Right, man. That's how you blow up, though, man. And you hear Kevin Hart. Look at him. He put on a dress one time, and boom.
Who was it that said that initially? Dave Chappelle. It's like I'm not putting.
Well, initially in our generation, hell, before him, Richard Pryor was coming out talking about that crap back in the day. How they be making men do some funky ass crap, especially black men in the entertainment business. But hey,
no, it'll be funny. I don't want
I
to wear
heard that from Groucho Marx on the freaking in the 50s on his show, whatever the name of that show he used to do.
You Bet Your Life, I think, or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like
you
that.
bet your life. He was way ahead of time. He was complaining about censorship in the 50s. He says we can't say what we used to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was serious about that. I mean, he was complaining big time about the sponsors not letting him say what he wanted to say. And he was getting away with stuff that it would get him fired in a minute, even 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, it's always been a thing. It's just been a lot more subtle in the past versus how it is today. Now you can openly call for someone to be shut down, censored, and have their free speech stripped.
So on your subject of the realms and stuff, I can just go by my personal experience. When my mom died, I was asleep. It was like 10 o'clock at night. And I didn't know she died, of course. Now she was hundreds of miles away from me. Anyway, so I like what Flat Earth was saying. He was saying that about dreams. We don't know what they are, but we know they are, you know. And she came to me, and it was probably only lasted maybe 3 seconds. And she goes, I'm so happy. I'm back now. She was always had bad knees and everything like that. I mean, major knee surgery. Anyway, she was running and happy. She says, and I get to go see your dad. Well, I've been really raised super hardcore Bible religious and everything like that. My dad was not a nice guy. He was pretty violent, right? So, and I'm thinking, all my religion teaches me, well, that person's not going to be there and this person's not going to be connected. And all she could think about in that short little time, because I had to go on all my religious and missionaries and going knocking on doors and all that stuff experience and what I was teaching. And I'm thinking, well, that doesn't jive with anything we're taught. It's like, hey, it didn't matter what he did to me. I can't wait to see him. It's just weird. I mean, what do you think of that?
I like it. Me and Austin have this type of conversation because, like Troublin said earlier, him and some other people too don't think that you have the same personality when you leave, and I think we do. I believe that's the whole point of this journey is you had to forget where you came from so you could really enjoy being here. By the time you get towards the end of your life, if you really tried and desired to, you can more or less have a better intuition of where you're coming from and therefore where you're going, and gaining a new appreciation, understanding for this limited, very valuable life and the great experiences we have here, that even the people that perceivingly hurt you in this short-term life will get to remember where they actually came from, because almost every time, if not every single time, when someone's hurting somebody else, it's because they're in a lot of pain. There's very few actually evil people walking among us that's just out here to hurt people. Do they exist? Sure. Very, 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 very small percent. Most of us are on the same journey, just trying to heal and figure out this crazy existence called life. I
would say my dad's I just said he was a very violent man. He would help anybody on the street, but inside the closed doors, you know how that goes.
Right. Understood.
And so anyway, and then the two things she says, I can't wait to see your dad. And she says, I can't wait to play tennis again. Well, when she was 67 or something when she died. She hadn't played tennis since she was 14. Back in the days, they used to jump the net a lot. That was the thing. Well, her foot got caught in the net, knee first, end of story. Back in the 50s, you're not going to go anywhere, right? So, and I didn't even know she did. I had to learn that after, because I called her sisters and said, I saw this, and she talked about tennis. And then they let me know that she loved tennis. And I never knew that. So I thought that was kind of cool. A little validity in what you say. Everybody has their own experience. And if someone tells me this, I'm going to go, yeah, okay, it's kind of believable. But you never believe unless it happens to you. It's just the way it is. Everybody doubts. We all have an, oh, no, like this. But I like what he said. I don't know your name. I apologize. Just call in.
Dave. Me?
Dave. I loved what you said about them, you communicating with them and seeing them around. Maybe there are still people here. My mom, though, then on my birthdays, she died in August. On my birthday is January 9th. And when I was in the military over in the Middle East for the 10 years and stuff like that, no matter where I was, somehow she'd get a phone call to me to say happy birthday. It was just her thing. So when I was sitting at home at about 5 o'clock in the morning, because you remember exact things when this happens, I'm sleeping again, of course. And she goes, Harmon, wake up. Happy birthday, son. I look up, I see her there. No glowing, no nothing, just standing there. And probably, again, 2 seconds at the most, end of story. So the next year, I'm just waiting for it. Of course, it's never happened again. But that was that.
Harmon, when you had that encounter, did it feel like you had like exerted energy, like you just worked out a little bit? Because I've experienced that and I felt like, whoa, like my body, like I was just like pumped. Did you feel
I didn't take time to check that and realize that. I just was asleep both times, which I sleep a lot anyway. It's like a big old bear. But yeah, I didn't. How about you, Troubling Tribune? Have you had it like that? If something like that happened?
All right, it's my turn. So, I've had several experiences with like physical entities. I've seen tall shadows. I've had dreams where I've seen the shadow things that I've seen in real life actually like go around and like consume people and do like really scary stuff. But that was when I was dealing with a lot of anxiety. I tend to think that maybe that was just a projection of my own negativity and anxiety manifesting itself, which is why it's really tough to like narrow down exactly what's going on with the disembodied beings, right? Are they self-manifestations of things? Are they disembodied, people that have passed on, dead people? Or are they not even people at all, right? As Christians would believe, is it one entity that's pretending to be all these other people so that they can gain people's trust, get people to let their guard down, and then they can tell us these esoteric secrets to get us to corrupt our soul. Now, I don't really vibe much with the corruption of the soul with esoteric knowledge bit because the knowledge is just so useful. I have yet to come across info pushing it. I say this with a grain of salt because there is a sect of the blood over intent people that you could extrapolate logically from that okay, well, that means that more blood would be a thing if a little bit of blood works. But I think the blood over intent works because it's intent. It's mind over matter ultimately. So all the stuff that I've read on occultism, on like esoteric works, there's nothing to do with like blood sacrifice, anything messed up like that. It's simply left-hand Eastern meditation for the most part. And then you combine that with affirmations of things that you want to happen. So it's a little bit of a mix. Right, so with that being said, the whole thing that's happening with spirits, I think that what's happening with reincarnation and with the spirits can be very closely in line in that when you become a spirit, if you, let's say you were a little bit adept, like you did some meditation, right, then you would have the opportunity to, okay, well, my work's not done. I'm still maintaining a sense of consciousness, even though I'm disembodied. Let's go ahead and manifest another life to go ahead and go be a part of, right? And maybe that's what's happening with the so-called crystal children and those who have reincarnated. Otherwise, I think that you probably just break down into nothing, right? The entropy, the energy goes to different things, gets recycled, and then whatever is holding your sense of consciousness fades, and then your consciousness fades as well. Again, speculation station, but it's interesting to talk about for sure. Oh, so yeah, I just rambled on. My personal experience with a ghost. So this happened back when, man, how old was I? I was still a teenager. So I'm living at my parents' house, but I'm out of school, so I think it was 19. My sister's at school. I wake up. And I leave my bedroom, and my sister has a room that's like right across from me. And I see, a woman come out. I won't say it's a dress, but it was like a white gown, and just kind of walks into my kitchen, which turns the corner, right? And I'm just following behind because it's the morning. I'm groggy, right? So I'm just like running through the motions. I haven't pieced together that something weird is happening. I walk into the kitchen, and there's nothing there. And I'm like, wait a second. I look in the garage. There's nothing there. I go out front of the house. I'm like, wait a second. Did somebody go out front? Am I just seeing things? I go out front and I realize, oh wait, There's a school day in the middle of the week. My parents are gone. My sister's at school. I'm the only one home. What the hell did I just see? So I just sit on this because I thought I was a little crazy with it. And I was like, this is the most physical I had ever seen a spirit. Everything else was like, stuff moving, things turning on, things like that.
Were you said you were just waking up, right?
Yeah, this was in the morning.
Okay. I mean, just maybe you were in that little twilight area and where it was still there.
Yeah.
And somehow you can make the visual. When we're awake, definitely it seems like we can't.
That's very
Dave says he has, but I don't, but the average person, I don't think. So I'm thinking maybe what is the flat earth X say? He says the right vibrations was going on for you right there.
Yeah, just was in the right vibe at that exact moment. And then when I got startled out of it, maybe I lost the ability to perceive it.
The connection. Yeah, that's so cool. That's very believable.
So it gets better. So I don't say anything, right? And months go by, and there was some weird stuff that kept happening, but nothing like that, right? So I get home from hanging out with some of my friends, and my mom asked me, she pulls me aside, she's like, have you seen anything strange going on in the house lately? And I play it dumb, and I'm like what? You mean like the microwave turning on? And she was like, no, so I was sitting out back in the garage smoking a cigarette, and the back door just flung open, and there was a girl standing there in a white gown, and she saw me and then just evaporated. I was like, what?
And we're moving now.
I was like, what the heck? So
you scared her. She thought she saw a ghost.
Yeah, she did. I'm wondering, because I looked into the records of the house. Nobody had died in the house or anything that I could known about. If anything happened there, it would have been like way back when, right? But in any case, I never found any evidence that anybody had died there. So I started doing a little bit of research on, spiritual entities and things like that, and come to find out there is a common reoccurring entity known as the Lady of Fortune. Are you guys familiar with it?
Not me.
She's literally called the Lady in White. And supposedly, when you start looking into the Lady of Fortune, you start getting into some Gnostic stuff, because this is like their patron. This is who they think the creator God is. Boils back down to this entity that you could call Sophia. I don't really think that the name matters too much. What matters is like the personification, the attributes, and basically it's a woman that's in all white that is basically all love and creation. So I find it.
So some people have seen it in history, seen that same thing you've seen 2 or 3 times, maybe no longer than you did, but they're going to go with it. They're going to run with it. They're going to say, okay, this is what it is and stuff like that.
Sure.
So it could have been seen lots of times.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people who like to make religions made a religion.
Right.
I'm just guessing.
Yeah,
but I'm giving the benefit of the doubt that it's real. It happens. Anyway, I was going to talk about flat Earth. What do you like to call it? Flat Earth man?
Oh, you can just call me Chris. My name is Chris. FMX.
Okay, Chris.
Whatever.
I didn't know that, Chris. Okay, Chris.
Okay.
I put a link in, and you were talking about the old people, right? People being old. Like 120 years old and 30 years old.
Gotcha. I'm not talking about old people. Sure.
No. About how old people were. I think it was very common that we had centurions. I think people lived to be 130, 40 years old, all the way up to the 60s and early 70s. And it wasn't like question. Did you guys see that Walter Cronkite interview with the 130-year-old man in 1972 asking about the moon landing?
Yep.
No, I missed that one.
It's only like a minute and a half, 2 minutes interview. I put it in the link in Rockfin. And he's just talking to him, and he says they didn't land on the moon. There's no way they landed on the moon. And then Walter Cronkite comes back because he's doing the man on the street, and they're reporting back to Walter, right? And Walter says, well, you know what? I've got a lot of very smart and intelligent friends that also believe that way, that we didn't go. And so I thought that was quite an interesting little interview.
There's been people from day one that's been denying the BS that they've been trying to, pawn off since back in the 70s, for sure.
My dad laughed at it day one when we made fun of him. 1969, we're sitting in our living room when they're shooting it when they're showing it, and he just started laughing. He said, "You believe? Look at that." He said, "That's the stupidest thing you've ever seen."
Nice.
And the papers in Chicago and everything for the first 2 years, they had to keep squashing it. I think there were more people who didn't believe it than believed it.
I think so too. I also believe that. My grandmother, God rest her soul, just passed away. Told me that they taught her both in school. It wasn't a big deal. They didn't make like one bigger than the other one. They gave them both the models. It wasn't as intricate as the ones we have now, but it was a class that she remembered. Just like the lady that David Weiss interviewed a year ago or so.
Right. And she says, yeah, they taught it until she was like mid-school. Then they changed it to the globe. And she goes, what did I know? I just believed them.
Yeah, my granny said the same thing. She literally said, because I asked her about it after the Dave Weiss interview came out with it, and I got really curious. I was like, wait a second. I didn't even think to ask my grandma what she was taught in school, right? And she never talked about it, right? And I asked her point blank, I was like, Grandma, were you taught in school that Earth was a globe? And she said, well, I was in the later years, but I never believed that crap. I thought it was so funny.
That's like I was telling Chris. I said that he has that that guy who lives down there who did Man High, the original guy. He lives down there in Florida. I don't know where he lives at now, but Kittinger. Joseph Kittinger. He was the guy who did Project Man High. He was the first one to go so high. Did you hear us talk about that earlier, Tribune?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it was. They had Project Man High from 58 to 64 or something like that. And they were going how high they could go in the gondolas. And so when what's that guy's name for the Red Bull?
Felix
Baumgartner. He was on his ground crew. He was like 80 some years old then. He was on his ground crew because Felix Baumgartner was going to break his record. And that's very big. I mean, he was alive a year ago. I don't know if he's still alive. He was in his 90s. That would be nice if Chris could go interview him if he's close.
Yeah, if he's close, that'd be great. I also want to do, I mean, me and Trouble are talking about going with Austin to NASA. We want to go to Coral Castle. It's a lot of awesome landmarks here in Florida that we have to kind of go over with a fine-tooth comb, come up with different scenarios, all the different rumors from all the different awesome things in our realm. It's pretty fantastic here, how they got us all mundaned out, focusing on all the frivolous bullshit and distractions when there's so much wonder and mystery around us.
We're probably just supposed to go north, man. Keep following the compass.
Correct.
I was seeing I was actually just hearing about a story, the original Vinland Saga story with Thorfinn, and then it's popular because there's an anime show out about it, so it's starting to get talked about. And what I found interesting was the idea that there was like we have to sail towards the Aurora Borealis, so they were basically just sailing north as far as they could to
follow
find
the lights.
Yeah, to find this land, right? Like, what if it's true that the Garden of Eden is literally at the center of the plain, right? Or that there is some sort of portal or mountain, like what if this is Mount Olympus, or something like that, right? There's a lot of different lore surrounding that I think directly has to do with this conversation, right? What if the mission of humanity is indeed to find out what is at the center?
You remember Math Powerland?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
when I was hanging out with him in 2017 and stuff like that, and the first thing I told him, I said, I want to go north, and he's all about going south.
He seems like the type that would want to go south. I believe it.
Yeah, and I still curious what's that north. They guard that just as much as they guard anything else. You can't get it. And I do. God, I want to say I remember when I was in 5th grade, which was in 1967, that I remember Mrs. Toombs teaching history, and she talked about land up north. And she knew it, but she says it's not on, they don't show it. And that's what Miss Toombs told me. And I always thought that was neat because I'm Danish, come from the Viking land, and I thought that would always be neat to go there. So, but you like the South, Chris, huh?
No. I'm
You
not
like the north.
surprised that Matt Powerland wants to go south because he seemed like a crazy ass bastard who enjoy finding all the monsters and dinosaurs beyond the ice wall. I want to go where the giants are, Mount Olympus, and see the hole in the ground. Apparently, that's there. So
No, he was really dedicated to try to go south. He really liked it.
Where's your sense of adventure, Chris? Man,
yeah, I don't know. Matt Powerland's got enough energy for all of us to take on the giant lizards and aliens and
nah, dude, I'm going. He's not
Nazis
doing that one
fighting
alone.
it, so.
If he ends up on that trip, then I will definitely be there. I want to see that crazy stuff firsthand. Show me the giants. Show me the lizard people.
You run out
show
of
me,
food, he's gonna eat you.
Show me the people that have no heads and are just faces in the chest. You know, like that crazy stuff that's documented from the historians that all just disappeared over the last 300 years. You know
what I want to do? Remember that island now that Dave found where, because he's tracking the ships at Karabutu or something like that. He talks about
Karabuti, I think he calls it.
Is that what it's Karabuti?
Karabuti,
Yeah, you guys, you heard of that, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to go to that island. I'm old enough now, I've lived long enough. I'd like to get on one of those ships they said they saw in the middle of the ice. It was supposed to be ice going south. I'd like to get in a crate and stow away in there and see what happens. I might die, but hell, at least I tried. I thought that would be exciting.
Since we're talking about ocean stuff, and Andrew B., by the way, welcome to the show. I did want to throw out there the latest controversy, right? The millionaire boat crew that has disappeared on their way to the Titanic. I do think it's interesting that the thing is called Ocean Gate, right?
Well, why is that? Oh, because the eighth ocean?
Yeah.
Oh, well, and everything that has gate on the end of it ends up being a conspiracy that they debunk on the news. Pizzagate, all the gates.
Well, I think it was interesting because Ocean Gate, exactly like Harmon said, like there's another ocean or another part of the ocean that people aren't accessing, and this thing just like went there, and now they're all of a sudden they're not able to communicate with it, and this to me is very telling, right? Because it's like, man, what happened to our ability to bounce radar signals and be able to like track things like that? We're supposed to be able to send
lost
these
that
things.
Technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
He said, I read today on the update on that, they said they were tired of people bothering them, so they turned off their internet and connections. And I said, okay, then how is he telling this story?
Sonar it. You can still sonar it, dude. That thing's hundreds of miles for sonar, right? So that's not supposedly hundreds of miles down, or is it?
No, I'm saying the guy on the crew, right? The ship that's going there to rescue, the submarine is what you're talking about. The submarine went down and the ship's going to go rescue it, right?
Well,
and the people on the ship said that the people on the submarine turned off their communications because they were getting hammered with too many messages. That was the story.
Right. Well, messages or no, right? You could still find them even if they turned off all their stuff, right? They're still an object. And the sonar doesn't work off of it bouncing off of other electrical signals. It works off of it bouncing off of other solid objects. So if there's another solid object like the Ocean Gate craft, then you should, in theory, be able to just shoot a sonar wave and be able to locate it that way. But they don't. They're not. It's a little fishy.
Yeah, of course. Like Chris says, it's on MSN and it's got the 8. It's definitely fodder for us for some reason.
Yeah, there's already conspiracies going around that this is a plot because they're millionaires and billionaires stuck on there, along with the supposed creator, the designer of these things is supposed to be in there too with his biggest client. I don't think it is, but it could be. We don't know that this is an insurance scam to kind of kill themselves so they can go live on the Mansion Island over there for rich people and Tupac and everybody and the Epsteins and South Pacific Ocean, where there's an 8th continent that nobody's been told about.
Guys, stuff's about to get really bad. We have 2 options. We can stay in it and milk it even more, or we can go ahead and take a extravagant exit.
The whole Machiavelli technique yet again.
It's disgusting.
I'm gonna stow away on a ship.
There you go, man. I think we should just get organized, right, and organize a fleet, and then be like, hey, we have 100 people here that want to go on a private exhibition. We're going to invoke our right of eminent domain to just do whatever the hell we want because this is a you guys may have the treaty, but we don't have to agree to that. So we're just going to go and arrest all of us.
See the news
well,
line
it was
right
nice
now.
knowing you.
Crazy flat earthers terrorist flat earthers try to cross the Canadian border to escape into Russia.
They're gonna come for me
We had to
already. They're
kill
gonna
him.
be like, "This man is inciting riots."
She's trying to leave America. Terrorism. Nuke them. Bomb drone them.
I hate these borders so much.
No,
When
apparently-
basically 1913, we couldn't. That's when they gave the passports and stuff, and now we're not free to travel anywhere. From my understanding, basically before that, you could actually travel any country, anywhere you want. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. But apparently, according to the Globers, we could just travel to Antarctica free, willy-nilly, and nobody would stop us, just as long as we're not military personnel.
You can't even leave the country without permission. Think about it. You can't leave the United States without permission. And then during the COVID, you couldn't leave New York City without permission.
Then they banned airships in the 1940s. It would be effortless with a solar-enabled airship to cruise anywhere. Be easy, but you can't do it.
Chris mentioned that earlier.
All right, so this is the true fate debate, and I have something a little bit interesting to bring up because I've been looking for this information since the stream started, but I cannot get a definitive answer. And I heard this a while back. So you know Anton LaVey, he started the Church of Satan.
Oh yeah.
Well, apparently on his deathbed, he said that he was no longer an atheist, he was no longer a Satanist or something like that, and that he saw Jesus Christ or something like that. I don't know if that's true because I've actually went to the Church of Satan website and looked at what they said about it, and they completely deny it. But then you go to a Christian website and they completely say it's true. I'm just curious about what you guys have ever heard about that, and if anything else.
I'm really glad that you brought that one up. I actually have personal knowledge. Well, I can't say personal, right, because I wasn't there, but I actually have heard this before. And the thing is that supposedly the people who were there with him at the deathbed completely deny it. They're like, no, that's a load of bull. That was something started from a Christian to try. It was literally a sensational piece that they were trying to get more people to be Christian. But there was literally no evidence of it, and the people who were there deny it. So, I mean, I'm not really sure what else we're supposed to take from that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think too.
He actually
that's the same
said,
thing I think with that guy's tombstone where they got that written on there about affirming it. I mean, I don't think he put it there, but you know, everybody loves to run with because it's the answer they want to hear.
yeah,
Psalms 19:1.
Anton LaVey specifically said, this is one of the craziest things I've ever heard. He said that some people, when they're summoning demons, draw protection circles around them. You'll never gain real power that way.
Yeah, I don't really believe in demons, like physical or spiritual demons. I think the only demons that exist are within ourselves, like our own personal demons, like people that are addicted to certain things or have, like serial killers, for example. There's something wrong with their mind. I think that's like the kind of demon that exists within us, but I don't believe in like the spiritual demon at all.
Anton LaVey didn't like think of it as like a negative, dark entity like that. Although some of them they did, don't get me wrong, but mostly it was psychodrama, as he admitted. You know, it was stuff to like psych you into certain things, and really you could just take it as manifestation. You're just trying to believe things to the point that you make them happen. But as far as like the whole demons thing, it's actually a play on words. Demons, again, if you trace the etymology of it, it comes from daemon, which means wise master. And I think regardless of what religious sect you hail from, the left hand or the right, you believe that there's disembodied entities. And I do think that there are wise masters, if you will, who have learned how to maintain a disembodied self, who could potentially be giving humanity some guidance or some information.
Andrew, I agree with you and Tribune. When I've talked to several serial killers, lots of them, right? And mass murderers and stuff through my years in the prison system. And I never got that real bad vibe from them. I even got to actually talk to like Manson. You guys know that, I've told you before. But there was this guy we got overcrowded in the prison, so you had to open up a yard to certain people that if they would got to walk the yard before, they'd be taken out by other inmates. That's just the story. But anyway, so I'm working the yard, just walking the yard, and there was this little guy, maybe about 5'4", walked past me. And when he went past me, it was the only inmate I ever ran into that I felt what you said, Andrew. It was his. Well, how'd you say it?
It's an internal demon. It's like something psychologically deranged with the person. Or
yeah, when you said it, it clicked. Yeah. So I'm sitting there, and he walks past me, and I literally felt something like, "Whoa, get away from this guy!" Never, and I never pay attention to the guys that much. Like, it takes effort, and guards are lazy. But I went after work, went and pulled his records, and found out what he did. He was a guy who was kidnapping girls from Vegas, and he would take them and cross the border to California out in the high desert, and he'd do whatever he did and kill them. And I didn't know who he was for nothing. He'd been in for many years. But I actually felt what you just said. I could feel him. That's the only one of everyone I've ever met that could feel. So that's pretty real. What do you think, Chris?
I think demons are real. I have my own experiences. I don't even know if I'm ready to talk about something because I got family on one side, my mom's side anyway, Dominican Republic. It's in the brujeria, hardcore, like really hardcore, like stupid, like I don't want to be around you hardcore. And, they break eggs and chickens and, rub onions under their armpits and all types of crazy stuff, superstition beliefs. But about 2 years ago, right before I started on the Melodome, I was going through yet another darker period in my life that was, for some reason, trying to make me stronger, as I'm not strong enough, apparently. Life keeps throwing these curveballs at me anyway. Got so I don't know. I was working. I had money. I had a place to live. I don't know what the hell just happened, but it hit me like a ton of bricks. Maybe I was watching too many horror movies, but I started hearing freaking voices. I don't know why. I still don't know why, but some of the closest friends to me, I would hear their voices in my head. I would have conversations with people I know in real life that ended up never happening. I would call them the next day. They would have no idea what the fuck I was talking about. Or I would text them, continuing on a conversation I thought we started. And I stopped smoking at the time. I've never been a drinker. I'm not into any hard drugs ever. I've dabbled when I was much, much younger, but nothing within the last over a decade now. And I still can't put my exact finger on what it was, other than it was just my time. It was just my turn to have such an experience that would be shadow any doubt I have going forward. And I already had a pretty good clue because of my family and one of my brothers who's into these things, talking with seances and Ouija boards, and different gods of different realms and entities, and even Lucifer and Beelzebub and all the different ones and names. And there's things that take claim over these names and energy. It doesn't matter. They don't require your belief. That's what I found out.
It's like Beetlejuice.
Correct.
If you guys haven't seen that movie before, they have a really interesting take on what happens when you die. Like if people haven't seen it, what's it, Baldwin and whatever her name is, they die in a car accident, and then they go into this other realm, and there's a football team there, and they don't even know they're dead. And then there's other people, these undead spirits that are just lost spirits that are just traveling around everywhere. And so there might be different levels to it, but I don't really know because I've never been there. I've never experienced it. And until I get there, I can't say for certain.
You're talking about when they're in that waiting room.
Yeah. Essentially.
Right.
No,
I've encountered demons in my spirit investigation, and they never had the power to do anything to me. They tried to scare me, like get out and stuff like that, but they had no power. I was just neutral, and they were nothing to me.
Well, that's good. That's good, because the ones that I've ran into and I've heard about before, maybe it was already in my subconscious, but all the different religions out there's a lot of people are like, just call out the name Jesus. Jesus will fix everything. And for the most part, from what I heard, it works a lot. It didn't work for me.
It was what?
It works a lot.
It works a lot
of the times, apparently, for what I hear through different circles, but it doesn't always work. Matter of fact, there's certain demons out there that have zero respect for that name, and some that don't have no idea who the hell you're talking about, especially since demons are real. They're much older and we
Are demons mentioned in the Bible or any religious scripture at all? Because I don't know enough about those.
Oh yes, yes, they're everywhere. In the Quran, they're known as the jinn, and the jinn in the Quran stories are much more fascinating to me than the biblical ones. Matter of fact, the biblical ones we have access to with the King James version are very small and unfinished, obviously. And I'm not talking about just going to the Dead Sea Scrolls, but giant, probably gigs worth of information that's being hidden from us to finish the rest of the stories. Hell, Jesus' life itself is a mystery to most of us. I love in the stories of the Quran, or at least the older sects, talk about how even the great Jesus himself sinned at some points in his life when he was younger, and even rose an old friend that he accidentally killed by playing some game with him or something. He fell off a roof or something. Well, because his family's a carpenter, so things happen on a construction site, and he just kind of had a bit of an ego about him because everybody was kind of kissing his ass ever since he was born, bringing him all these treasures and stuff because this is the new one. This is the Son of God. This is the one. He does
interesting stuff.
Yeah, in the Bible
Harmon,
it said Jesus was going to raise somebody called Legion, and he had so many devils in him, and he was going to cast them out. And then so Legion, so he cast out all the whatever evil spirits, I think they called them.
Unclean.
And they went and jumped in swine, and they caused the swine to jump over the cliff and kill themselves. I don't know. That's the story in the Bible.
Yeah, that's
They
the one in the
specifically
Bible.
say unclean, by the way. I think that like
Unclean spirits. Yeah.
yeah,
So that means there's clean spirits out there too.
boom.
and Harmon, speaking of all the serial killers and psychopaths and stuff that you've met, some people may not be aware of this, but Ted Kaczynski just died, and I think they are blaming the Unabomber. I think he was 81 years old, and I think they say he killed himself.
Oh, of course.
I don't doubt. I mean, you can. I mean, all you do, it's so simple to do. So yeah, he's 81. What else he got to live for?
Prison's no place to live at that age.
No.
Yeah, you just get tired of it.
I just checked the Bible, Matthew 7:22. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? So there's several.
Yeah, and then he'll say, "Get out, ye who practice lawlessness! I never knew you." Because it's not enough to just believe in Jesus, right? You actually have to follow the way and do the law according to the book, which is why I never understood mainstream Christianity.
That's what Dave said. He said they had no power over him because he didn't call out Jesus, and he just knew that in his mind they didn't have power over him. I think that's what you said.
Yeah, that's how I felt. That's how I got myself out of it. I went to church at the time. I was praying. I'm praying. As a matter of fact, since then, I pray every day. Matter of fact, ever since I got out of that situation and the voices stopped, there's no other person or entity it could be other than the highest or one of the angels or something. I don't know, something more than me. I couldn't make it stop. I tried. So something beyond my own self. And I give myself a lot of credit for a lot of things in my life. And I blame myself for a lot of problems I've had in my life. But this one, I don't know what the hell I did to deserve that. Like I couldn't sleep. Like since flat earth, when I learned about FE, I lost like a couple weeks of sleep because I was like the floodgate was open. And fast forward till that event a few years ago, I didn't know what the hell to do with it. I didn't know. I was looking around. I had witches around me. I had somebody cursing me. I don't know. Voices were telling me to go outside and draw circles in the sand and stand in the moonlight. I'm like, oh hell no! I don't know where those thoughts are coming from, but that is not happening.
Wuss.
So needless to say, I did not go outside. But I was freaked out.
Where's your sense of adventure, man? Something tells me disembodied to go draw a circle in the sand under the moonlight.
I'll
probably
go
go
find
check
a
it
hole
out.
there in the freaking snow before I go listen to the tiny voice in my head saying to go, no, I'll just go feed myself to the lions. Now.
You do that and the portal opens up and then you gain all the secrets to the universe and you were too scared to do it.
Yeah, but I like being in my meat suit right now, doing things. I got plans. So that portal, it ain't going nowhere. You can just chill over there until I'm done over here.
And don't forget, CERN has Lord Shiva, the god of death, the big statue out in front of there.
It's not the god of
their
death.
facility.
Another reason not to jump in portals. See,
so Shiva's not the god of death. Shiva's the god of transformation.
Destruction and destruction.
It has to. So things have to be destroyed in order to be transformed. Ultimately, when you go into the text, it's the god of transformation, destruction is just a byproduct, right?
Never have the God of construction where he doesn't want to see things he built destroyed, huh? We just can't have one of those gods.
No,
The God of
we can't,
preservation.
because there has to be. Okay, so this is the thing, right? That since we're in this conversation, there can be some philosophy with it, right? And I think that especially here in this Western culture, in this modern age, we have really detached ourselves, or tried to detach ourselves away from the raw reality that is that negativity exists and must exist, that destruction has to exist in order for creation to unfurl. The other way to look at it, right, is that we have to take life in order to keep life, whether you're a vegetarian or a meat eater, right? Plants have life too. There's actual studies going on that say that plants are communicating, right? They have language. And this whole idea that they don't feel pain is just something that was told to you. You don't know that. You just assume because it has a different structure than flesh and blood and you can't hear them scream, that means that you're not doing the same kind of atrocity that it would be to take the life of a living animal. It's just part of it, right? And it has to be that way in order for things to keep being recycled. So, yeah, this whole idea of like all the things that bring us negativity are like bad or inherently evil. I think that that's a weakness in thought, and it keeps us from being able to embrace the truth of reality. And I'm not saying to like be overly negative and do a whole bunch of killing and stuff like that, but like let's look at the Native Americans, right? They respected the animals that they killed. They used every part of it, right? There wasn't this whole massive, like what we have with massive farming. Like that is ridiculous. That's probably one of the biggest sins that we have is factory farming is the same thing as like slavery, right? There's no animated contest of liberty there. There is just tyranny and enslavement, right?
Well, yeah, they've made it where it's illegal to have. Growing up, I lived in a little country town, so it was everybody could have chickens. There were chickens in front yards. People didn't know whose chickens were whose sometimes, and now it's against the law. So they forced you to do what you just said, to eat their mass. It wouldn't happen if we could raise our own chickens and stuff, right?
That's true. And then you would understand the balance and the basically you would understand even more so how precious life is, as opposed to just saying it and knowing it because you've had loved ones die, right? There's a whole different level to it when it's intrinsic and you experience it every day, and you have to make choices, right? Difficult choices. Another thing is like you say that, well, if we were meat eaters, then we just go off and it'd just be nuts, right? It was like, well, not necessarily, right? You look at animals in the wild, the carnivores aren't just eating constantly, right? They're actually, most of them are selective. They'll eat like once every couple days, once a week. In the most extreme scenarios, it's like once a month. So it's like they inherently know that it's something to be respected. It's a difficult and respectable thing, honorable thing to be a part of, and not something to be abused or overdone, right? So
for life to exist, something has to die. But the argument that a lot of vegans have always made, that I've heard, because I dated a vegan for quite a long time, and she said that if you kill a plant, you don't know that it had emotion or anything like that. It didn't love you. It was just there to feed you. Animals, on the other hand, can be used for different purposes, and we don't have to kill them. An animal can come to love you, like like birds, dogs, cats, elephants. They when they die, it's different.
I think that's bullshit, Andrew. And I say that because just because you don't know that the plant, it really sounds funny to say, right? It's like, oh, it's usually the plants can love you. You don't know that they can't. And there are real studies that show that how you treat your plant emotionally directly affects how well they grow. So why would we go and assume that? Well, I know why we have to, because it eases the moral guilt, right? People haven't properly incorporated this negativity, and therefore it starts to manifest in other ways, right? So you can be vegan and you can think you're taking the moral high road, but what other messed up stuff are you doing in your life, right? And you're really not.
I get that. It's like the rice water experiment. You can talk to your water in certain ways, and it's going to behave differently based on your behavior. Plants will do the exact same thing. Like if you play classical music around plants, they're going to grow differently versus playing like hardcore gangster rap or death metal, for example. They will grow differently. So there's different harmonics involved.
WA plant.
Right. Or here, as long as they have enough oxygen in the water, Chris, right?
Exactly. As long as you have enough oxygen in the water, you can sit there and just fart all over it. They give you all the.
I was just bringing up the vegan thing.
It was an inside joke. It was inside
I
joke.
tried the vegan thing for a while, for about 3 months, and I liked it a lot, but I just started getting hungry for like eggs again.
Creepy,
So I
actually.
just
That's creepy.
slowly went back into not being a vegan anymore.
You can get almost your entire nutritional palette from nothing more than 3 eggs, like 2 oysters, a 4-ounce piece of pork, and there's like one other thing that it is. I think like an avocado. Like between those 4 things, you can literally get your full nutritional palette because meat is so nutritionally dense. But the problem is that we're so spoiled that we just eat a ton of it, and then it causes problems.
Yeah. And
Sir-
going back to the true fate conversation, I heard this a long time ago from someone, I don't remember who it was, and they were saying it doesn't matter if you believe in demons or not, other people do. Like the Satanists, for example, they believe in that. They believe in Satan, and they have all these different seances that they've held at churches, like these different celebrities. Like if you once again go back to CERN and watch the opening ceremonies to that, or go to the 2012 Olympics, I mean, that is some weird shit that they believe in, and not everyone really does, but we look at it with a fringe mentality.
I think that
I
they
tell
don't
my
actually
friends,
believe it.
they believe in it just as much as you believe in Jesus. The hardcore Christians believe in Jesus and the Savior and stuff just as much as those guys believe in the demons. But a Christian can't understand that they can believe it that hard. But they do. They believe it wholeheartedly, just like Andrew said. They just believe it to the core.
I think the reason why they believe it to the core, though, is because like they get presented different stuff than the common folk get presented. Either that, or it really is just pageantry. I've brought this up before when I was talking to Witsit, because we kind of have opposite sides of the spectrum, similar beliefs but opposite conclusions when it comes to what's going on. He doesn't think that a double bluff would be within the cards. That if there was a elite, that they wouldn't go around saying that one religion is true, but then pretending that that wasn't true, and then being another religion all in the background, and then playing that up for like ritual purposes. And I think no, that's exactly what they would do. They would do possibly even a third religion that we don't even know about until you start learning, and then that's also to throw you off. And then they got the secret, like for all we know, only like the top 5 people that actually run shit know the real religion, or what you could consider a semblance of a real religion, and everything else is just controlled releases that they have put out, because all of the books, all of the scriptures, all of it comes from authority at the end of the day. And you could make an argument, though, that, well, the Indian Hinduism doesn't. It comes from all these different people that have put their works together. It's like most of those people are long dead and gone, and we don't really have record of them. This belief is the record of them. So it's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I don't know. That's deep.
Beyond showing, it is a pageantry to a certain degree, but it's to put it in the mind's eye. So those that are focused on their things they're meant to be focused on, work, the rat race, struggles, school, relationships, that even if they don't even watch the Super Bowl, they watch, long as they'll see snippets of the halftime, that imagery is being placed in front of your heads. The same way that they introduced sexuality to us back in the late 80s with the illustrations drawn within the illustrations intended for us to watch. That was in Disney movies, Looney Tunes, the Transformers, Betty Boop, all of them were designed with the sexuality drone first. So that's the intent. It's placed there for your subconscious. Then the rest of the image is drawn outwardly from that source image. By the time they finish the drawing, you have no idea it's in that drawing anymore. But it wasn't the intent.
That was in the 30s and 40s. They had that, Chris.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it was before.
It was it's been there forever in Disney. You gotta remember, Disney was, just because Disneyland started in the 50s doesn't mean Disney went around before that. There were movies were in the 30s and stuff.
Correct. My incarnation this time around didn't go that far back.
Well, the first pornographic movie was in the late 1800s. I was looking this up as part of a trivia question.
Yeah, I bet you were, freak.
No, I was looking it up, and it's like it was some French movie, and it wasn't really pornographic.
Not judging. It's all good, man.
He's just giving you a hard time, Andrew.
I know, it's all right. But yeah, they've been doing that for a long time, and that sort of stuff has been around since. I mean, if you go back to ancient like Sanskrit type of civilization, they were practicing Kama Sutra, which is like pretty much the definition of
sex magic.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest for a second. This is an honest, genuine question, right? And honestly, the dudes are going to have a different answer than the ladies, probably. But let's say you're hungry and you have the opportunity to mate, right? What are you going to do? If given the scenario, both are limited, right? You could either eat or you could mate. What's your answer?
Oh, well, I mean, mating's easy because I can eat there too. Buzzy.
Oh my goodness! It's a good thing this show's not for kids.
Okay.
Well, that's the answer to why all the sex magic, right? It's the sex sells, right? For lack of a better word, it's literally sells more than anything. And if you're not selling sex, you're selling food. So,
well, there's energy. There's very passionate energy in sex magic. Why Aleister Crowley and all the dark arts abused that ability to the point where they bastardized it and pornographied it, and now it's so taboo that you're looked at a certain way if you talk about it too much.
Well, the religions do too. They all only the upper guys could have the more wives. Only the upper guys could do this. I know that they limited to what you can marry and stuff. Who are they to tell you that? But all religions, all things, the Alice Crowley, all of them, they wanted the women for themselves. End of story. They wanted the control. The Bible did too.
That's true. That's what I believe. But there are some in this, in this community in particular that, although have accepted that we have been misled with the dogma of the spherical earth, will still fall into the dogma of a mainstream religion. And I'm not necessarily talking about the people who have really dug into the Bible deep and picked through and have realized the problems with the first translations and stuff, because there is an argument. There is a solid argument to be made for the oldest, most original version, right? That there could be, that could be true. It's just the way that I see it is that is true. We're definitely screwed because anybody who grew up in Western society who has bent the knee for the Jesus idolatry will be just completely effed.
Yeah. I just think, like you said, again, I think I caught you saying this, Troubling, is that these 5 leaders or whatever, I like it, just say 5. All the governments, everything written, and we don't know how old it is. And if the truth is, we know we don't know how far back history goes. We just don't, and they'll say, oh, it goes back to 2,000 years. And say, we don't know. And so I go with what you said. I think these books are just part of the government. They'll get you one way, scientists, religion. They're going to get you one way or another to follow what they want you to do. That's just simple. I don't know.
That makes sense. Problem, reaction, solution.
Yeah, they just got it all covered. They're not idiots. And when Chris and I talked earlier, I said, everybody says, oh, they're trying to they're trying to hide God from you, try to hide the creator for you, hide that creation. And I just said they're trying to hide nature and the power of the ether from us. And that's what we talked about in his other show. And he kind of liked that idea. He didn't get to expound on that. I'd like to hear what he says.
What, the ether?
No, about instead of hiding God from us, they're hiding the power of the ether and nature from us, and the power of nature.
Yeah, I don't even much have a difference with all that, because for me, God is literally everything. It can be an external entity. I don't want to erase that out. I know a lot of people don't like the idea of an external God, but I believe it could be in us, in emptiness, and in itself too, if it chooses to be. So yeah, in hiding the things that you're talking about, and just doing that, they're ultimately hiding God, the creator, a better higher understanding of ourselves, our surroundings, and our abilities to affect and manipulate said surroundings, energetically, through thought, through words, through the power of words, which is exactly what started all this today.
Right. I just realized something through this conversation. What if what we're dealing with is something akin to an intrinsic duality, like a lot of things? Some feel that all of reality in itself is a duality, but this is specifically what I mean. So let's forget about the nuances with germ theory, right? Let's agree that there are little microscopic things, right? We can agree to that. We've seen these little things that we know that we're made up of cells, right, of different living parts that come together to form a conglomerate,
Have we
right?
seen cells?
We have
Have
seen
we-
cells.
Or is
Cells,
that just
cells we have seen.
Cells we have seen.
Yeah,
All
so
right,
it's
I want
atoms.
to have to say if he goes down to the cell level, right? Oh, it's all a lie.
No, it's atoms.
No, the
Atoms
cells
are
that
really, yes.
we got cells and replicate cells, but you get smaller and much smaller than that. Atoms and nucleus and all that. That's just.
What's
Well,
what's
go ahead
after-
and finish what you're
what's
saying,
after
Trevor.
cell?
All right, so
then.
guys, hear this out, right? This will blow your mind, right? So you have no power over whether you're hungry or not, right? And you have no real power over whether you have to alleviate yourself, like go to the bathroom or anything like that, right? These are things that are just part of the processes that happen that make up you, right? But ultimately, if you broke it down all the way to these individual living things, these little cells, right, that are supposedly living blocks, living things in themselves, then basically what you have is a bunch of smaller things making up the grand thing. So you could consider us the God, right? The grand consciousness that makes up all of the cells and living things that make up us. What if it is the same exact way for God? This came up because, Chris, you said that God is within us, but I think that's a misnomer. If anything, it's the opposite. We and everything else is within God if we are a part of God, not the other way around. So, but that doesn't mean necessarily that God would be like the overlord, end all, be all of what is determined, right? That would ultimately be determined by all the, as egotistical as it may sound, by all the little processes that happen. So this drama that we play out in all our separate consciousnesses is the probably or possibly the conglomerate that makes up the greater whole that is, doing something else that we can put into perspective. We're cells to God, basically.
Here's something to consider when it comes to cells and atoms and electrons and things like that. According to physics, an atom is a certain size, right? Which in the center of it, that's called the nucleus, which is protons and neutrons. And then the atoms with the different rings, they rotate around that. But the atom, so the nucleus is so far away from the first ring of electrons that everything else in between is empty space, which is like 99.9% empty space. So therefore, if we and everything else are made up of atoms, then that means everything is made up of 99.9% empty space, which is just complete hogwash, in my opinion.
Agreed. What do you think, Rob? I can barely hear you, brother.
You might have to change your audio settings in Skype. Go down to the bottom left side where it says mute. Click on the little up arrow. You might have to change your microphone.
Can you hear me at all?
Yep.
There you go.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, I'm happy to bring in more of a Christian point of view if you want, since you brought up
Excellent.
And, questions, I mean, so I don't know. I've got a million things I could mention and talk about. I've had plenty of spiritual experiences. I'm not, but I don't know. The best way to do it would maybe to ask some of those questions you've already asked. Tribune. I think you mentioned one about Jesus talking about depart from me if you practice lawlessness and such scriptures as so. And so, I mean, if you're interested, I'm happy to talk about some of those. Well, pretty much everything you've been talking about from a more Christian point of view.
Yeah, sure. Fire away, man. Start with the. Honestly can't remember what I specifically brought up, but you just reminded me of the one thing, so we could talk about that and go from there.
Yeah, we could start with that. So we all agree that there's some kind of
you got to try to keep your mouth towards your phone. When you drift away, I can't hear you.
Yeah. I'm actually on a laptop, so I'm just about eating my laptop.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so if we're talking about justice or the afterlife, do you think there's a moral code in an afterlife? If you guys all seem to believe there's an afterlife, would there be a moral code
in the afterlife? Sure.
Yeah,
why not?
Yeah. Was it possible then that scripture you mentioned, Tribune, about depart from me, you who commit lawlessness, is just talking about a moral code? So, I mean, if you've got a house and you've got a party, you don't want anyone over who's going to be lawless at your party. You know, you want a good time. Is this what Jesus is talking about? Yeah, not just sort of law of the Old Testament kind of thing.
So, lawlessness specifically, right? Like, this was a term that was used to define people who like were not following the way, right? So the law that they're talking about is obviously the Torah. Jesus only taught from the Old Testament, and he even said that he didn't come to do away with the Old Testament and that nothing would be done away with until all be done away with. You know, that not one eye or not, I can't remember the exact word that he used, but not one little thing shall pass, not one single thing shall pass from the law. And obviously the law, every time the law is referred to in the Bible, they're referring to the Torah, right? That is God's law that was given to Moses through those books, and through specifically, trying to remember the one that was given to Deuteronomy, I believe. So in any case, that's why he says, depart from me, ye who practice lawlessness, because nowhere in the Torah does it say that you're supposed to go out, prophecy, get rid of demons or any of that. And then even in Jesus's name, right? Like, because it even says in Deuteronomy 13 that if anybody comes from within your camp and tells you to follow other mighty ones, then it is better that they die at your hand. You know, it's telling you to stone people who tell you to go and follow other mighty ones, that tell you to go away from the law, right? And this was also for people who would do wonders, right? Because in Deuteronomy 13, it says if you have somebody who is practicing wonders, right, who is doing miracles, but they tell you to follow another mighty one, then you know that they are not of Yah. So this is what I call the Deuteronomy 13 test. So Jesus was referring back basically to that test, right? So don't be warning people not to believe in the people who come in his name, right? Who are going to say that he was God and that he was the one who's telling them to, you know, depart demons and all this other stuff. When the Torah specifically tells you to do the instructions, right? The old instructions in your encampment, follow the 10 Commandments, plus the rules of engagement and the rules for sin offering.
So I definitely agree that Jesus said he didn't come to get rid of the moral code, as in the 10 Commandments. Now, what's your understanding of the animal sacrifices in the Old Testament?
Yeah, the animal sacrifices are, I mean, that's point blank, right? The penalty for sin is death. God said that, okay, well, because there's now this sin out in the world, that now you have to kill basically for these sin offerings. So there was a sin offering that people would take themselves for the sin that they did know about. They would take that up to the high priest of their encampment to have, I don't remember the exact process, but there would be a process that would be done. And then the priest would get his share of the meat, and then the rest would go off would get burnt up for sacrifice or whatever they did. And then there was the sin offering that was for the whole encampment, for the unknown sins, for the sins that you didn't know about or didn't necessarily know that you committed. And that was the scapegoat ritual that they did, where they assign all the.
So you understand the Christian point of view that Jesus became the sacrificial lamb. So he became the sacrifice for our sins.
Yes, but I also understand that's also completely unbiblical as well, because in the Old Testament, God specifically says the human sacrifice is an abomination, right? And in the you couldn't say that Jesus was. I don't want to confuse it. You're not saying that he's a Passover lamb, are you?
Yeah, he was the sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, he couldn't be. He was supposed to. Oh, so all sacrifices were supposed to be without blemish, like perfect, no broken bones, no bruising, anything. Just like you would expect a sacrifice to be for like a pagan ritual, right? You would want the fittest, and oftentimes they even required it be like the firstborn of the herd, which oftentimes was like the fittest, right? So
or the virgin.
Yeah, or the virgin, right? So they're looking for clean animals. They're looking for clean meat. Jesus was by no means He didn't meet any of the qualifications of a sacrifice according to the Old Testament.
Why is that?
Well, there was so he was with blemish, right? He was beaten the heck out of. He was made to carry a cross or what have you for however far, which obviously means that he's without blemish. He was older, an older gentleman as well, and this was this punishment that he was undergoing was actually a not just like something specific for him, like crucifixion. There are different sects of Christianity, mind you. There are some Christians that don't even believe that he was crucified on a cross, that he was actually like hung from a tree. I don't even necessarily.
Nick, I mean, if you look at the timeline, from what I understood, that the cross didn't come around to like well after his supposed crucifixion, and it was done was just on a pole with his hands over his head. So, but whatever.
Right. So that's true as well. But I'm just saying, regardless of what the story is, the one of the main requirements for a sacrifice is no blemish, right? And the fact is that he did have a blemish, and not, well, lots of blemishes because he was beaten, right? Not only that, but he was he was a human. Humans were not fit for. People were human sacrifice was considered an abomination, and not only that. But the sin offerings for the animals, the reasons why it could be an animal is because we supposedly had domain over the animals. So we could offer their life for sin. However, when it comes to man offering another man's life for sin, that was never to be the case. In fact, in Isaiah, it says over and over and over again, each man is to die for their own sin. The righteousness of the righteous is on himself. If I bring pestilence onto a land, then, and I can't remember the three people he names, Isaac, Jacob, and Abraham or whatever, names three righteous people. He says they would not save their brothers, their sisters, their sons, their daughters, or anybody from their righteousness. They would only save themselves. So as righteous as a person as Jesus was, his righteousness would have been on himself. And at best, the only argument you can make is that he led by example, and that what he said, what he means by follow me is just that, follow the Torah instructions that I'm living out.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'm not interested in a doctrinal battle as far as the debate doctrinal goes. Not interested in that at all. All I wanted to do is I thought you might want a Christian point of view. And if you go into any Christian church, they will tell you what I told you there, is that Jesus is our sacrificial lamb. Therefore, we don't have to sacrifice animals anymore. And you could debate forever whether he was who he said he was, etc. But that debate can go around in circles forever, or whether he's worthy or every point that you've brought up, and I'm not really interested in debating all of those details. All I'm
like
saying,
you said, he was the ultimate sacrifice. He did away with the law of sacrifice till the last sacrifice, and so in the Old Testament, the law of sacrifice was done away with Jesus' sacrifice. That's what Christians teach, right?
Well,
right. That's very common teaching, right? That's what I know. That's what they believe, and that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, so therefore we can accept his blood sacrifice on our behalf, because you talk about the wages of sin are death, and therefore the death of Christ has taken those wages of sin off of us, and we can inherit into eternal life. Now, I'm not talking about we don't have to obey laws or anything like that. I'm just talking about in the Christian worldview, Christ has opened up that door so that we can access life again, and rather than living under the death penalty.
With all due respect, though, all those are conclusions are they are man-made interpretations that are not even specifically. You can say that they're hinted at, but they're certainly not specifically mentioned. And I do find it interesting that, and I don't mean to be offensive at all, of course. I want to engage in these conversations because I myself, I used to be a Christian at both kinds, actually. The one who believed mainstream Christianity and the type that believed in the more messianic worldview, more Judaic classical transliteration worldview of the Bible. I believed in them both, and I've since come out of the understanding of both that obviously to me it was for control so that I wouldn't practice spiritual things. But I find it interesting that I can't get Christians, especially particularly ones that do believe in Jesus, to engage with me on the actual doctrine part, the scriptural doctrine of it, because this is what the worldview, this is what the religion is based off of. And if the doctorate isn't sound or completely contradicts the conclusion on its face, then I don't know why we would continue to go with that particular worldview. Now, I could be wrong in my interpretation, and that's why I open up the debate. That's why I have this channel. But
so you said he had to be unblemished for a sacrifice, right?
Yeah,
compared to the Old Testament law.
Right.
Well, was he unblemished when he went to the Garden of Gethsemane to upon the sins of the world?
I don't believe he did that.
Oh, you don't believe he did that? Okay.
Yes, I don't believe. So I don't.
I don't believe in Christian. I just saying I know how they believe, and I won't argue with them with that.
So I don't
believe that.
Yeah, my interpretation of the Bible, if I was to believe it, what I would believe is that Jesus or Yeshua, Joshua, really would be the most correct English pronunciation of it. Wouldn't be anything close to Jesus. It'd be Joshua.
Right.
Joshua. Right. Joshua led by example, doing the perfect instructions of the Torah, even so far as correcting the day of the Sabbath. People accuse Jesus of he was picking the straw on the Sabbath day, but when you look at the historical context, that day that he was doing on actually wasn't the Sabbath, and the thought or the theory behind it was that he knew that it wasn't the Sabbath, and so that it wasn't even really a sin. The Pharisees had already moved the day to Sunday from Saturday.
I got a quick comment and a quick question, and then I'm going to go ahead and mute again.
Sure.
Joe from Effed Up World is in chat now. I know he's Christian and he's also a flat earther. So Joe, hop on in.
Absolutely.
My question is, how does anyone know that Jesus Christ or anyone in the Bible actually even existed?
Yep.
By faith.
No. If you look at all historians, whether they're atheist or not, I'd say, nearly all, they will admit that Jesus is an historical figure based off the history that we have at our hands. So it's just whether. So if we take that, and if you study that, then you'll find that is true according to the history we know. And then you just got to work out whether he was who he says he was, or who people said he was.
Yeah, history is extremely easy to manipulate, though. They're also going to tell us that COVID was a real thing and that 2 planes crashed into buildings and that the Iraq war I was in was legitimate and we were looking for weapons of mass destruction and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I agree with that. So therefore, we know those things happened. It's just what truth narrative around those events are we going to believe? So are you going to believe the mainstream truth, or are you going to believe a different truth? So that's what we're talking about. And so what is the main truth of Jesus is basically where it comes down to. Was he who he said who he portrayed himself to be and who his followers said he was? Is he that, or is he something else?
So your argument, just so you understand, and this is obviously what I do here, doing the True Earth debates and now the True Fate debates, so I do apologize if I come off a little harsh. But in reality, what your argument amounts to is that, all the historians believe it, and therefore it's true.
No, I didn't say that. I said, therefore, it's probably something there that has happened that history has detailed, and then you've got to work out whether these stories are story or narrative you want to believe around it.
Just to finish the point though, so the same thing, right? Historians agree that this thing happened in the past, right? And so we're just arguing about interpretation. that in itself is taking away a possible part of the debate, right? Because we don't know that these things in history happen just because the historians agree that something happened at that time. The fact is that most of them are looking through a bias on what they think history was supposed to be. And that's from both sides of history. The Christians look at it from a side that the world can only be 6,000 years old, and they work it to try to fit that model. And the atheists work the opposite model, where it's like, oh, it has to be millions or billions of years old, so everything has to work out to be really, really, really old in all of our calculations. But all it is agreed upon frameworks that people are plugging into. The argument is equal to saying, well, we know that there's something to the globe because all the scientists agree that it's a globe.
So they find old fragments, right, of parchment or whatever, which say similar to what the current scriptures say, as well as the Gnostic books that you guys have brought up. So they do find these old texts, whether they're in jars buried under dirt or whatever.
The
so
issue with that is that we don't know that those are legit.
But then, so according to historians, whether they're atheist or Christian or not, they seem to agree that these things are legit. But then I agree with you that maybe the dating of them might be a little bit, might not be as accurate as what you say, based off, because we're using various circular reasoning about when this thing happened, and that might be off about the dates of what they say. Oh yeah, this dates to this old because of whatever reason, but there's still incredible old documents that come up that they would dismiss straight away if they did not give the appearance of being legit. Because there's atheists, they're not interested in listening to into fake.
Here's the problem, though. Again, just to make it like super clear, Jeranism has talked about this in length as well. The way that things appear to have legitimacy, right, is literally just that on its face. If it looks to be the same writing style as what we would expect to find in a particular time, and it's written with the material that we would expect to find within a particular time, then we will assume that that is legit, as long as the carbon dating or whatever radiometric BS dating we want to use comes back within that framework as well, which it will, because when we give the scientists the thing, we tell them the time frame that we expect that thing to be dated for. Right, so it's set up to be a successful find for archaeologists because that's what generates hype. That's what generates momentum and even grant funds and donations. You not making the big discovery doesn't fund anything, right? There's no incentive to not find something. And there have been tons of examples of historical texts that have been hailed as like, what's the specific word I'd like to use? There's a few. The Dead Sea Scrolls in the Museum of the Bible, proven to be forgeries, every single documentation. Not only that, but we also have the works of Plato. Not all of the works of Plato, but one of them in particular, proven to be a forgery. It's been thought for over 100 years to be legit, and now we know that it's not. So there's ways to prove out if it's a fake, but just because you haven't taken the fine-tooth comb to it, and it hasn't been brought to light that it is fake, doesn't mean that it's real either. In fact, the way that they determine if it's real is just by looking at it and determining it if it matches what they would expect to see. It's a confirmation bias.
No, no matter what you do in life, you could come with the same sort of thoughts that you've just said there, and you'll never find anything in history that you can put your head on. And I understand that because so much of history is fudged, and so therefore I'm not going to believe in Jesus just because a book apparently might have said it
What if I added
2,000
in?
years ago.
What if I added in that the same people putting forward the UFO deception are also putting forward the deception that the Adam and Eve and biblical timeline is true in declassified government documents? That's another reason why I don't believe it. It's literally, to me, propaganda coming from the same arms of the people who want to control us. It's just this is way more subtle. The religious aspect of it is much more subtle because it has to be. Just like with the Donald Trump, right? It's like you have the obvious bad guy, Hillary Clinton, and then you have the less obvious bad guy, Donald Trump, right? And unless you were, on top of it, unless you were a flat earther, and I even knew a lot of flat earthers who fell into it, you probably thought that Trump was like the answer, right? That's our go-to guy. He's going to be the solution. Little did you know that it was designed to be that way, problem, reaction, solution, so that you would vote for Mr. Trump, right? So I see this as a sales funnel, essentially, to get people to believe in this propaganda that does come down from the top. All the information about the religion, it trickles down from people who have a vested interest in this being true. Or are you believing that it's true, at least?
Yeah, I mean, everyone believes something is true, don't they? So I guess you guys have shared quite a few awesome experiences that you've all had, spiritual experiences, and we've all, a lot of us have had them. I've had lots of them. I mean, I believe in the Creator. I believe He gives us His Spirit, as the Bible talks about, because I've experienced it, and I've had amazing experiences that would be quite interesting for on line of some of the conversations you guys had earlier. Have I seen Jesus in any of these experiences? No, I haven't. But I've seen the same experiences that they talk about in the Bible. In spiritual experiences, much like you shared yourself earlier. Sorry, my dogs.
Oh, you're good.
So I've experienced these things that they've talked about that they mention in the Bible. However, I have not experienced seeing Jesus in a spiritual experience. I've experienced things, but haven't seen Him. So I'm not going to just believe something out just based off a possible book 2,000 years ago that we're told from historians. I think it's got to be real. It's got to be experienced with a backing behind it. So much like you guys, I believe a Creator. I believe a spiritual world. And there are lots of experiences that we find it hard to detail what exactly it doesn't mean. But much of this stuff is talked about in the Bible and is experienced in there as well. So why would that be wrong if I can read it in there and then I can experience it in my own life?
That's good evidence for me. I believe you. I believe everybody who tells us their own story, their own experience. It would be crazy of myself trying to project that word crazy onto somebody else because I experience exactly what they have. So I know what you're saying. I've never met myself. I cold-heartedly believe that spirits and demons alike, rather both good and bad, because let's face it, this fractal, infinite, universal reality in the mind's eye. There's probably bad angels, obviously. That's the Lucifer stories, a fallen one. Then there's probably some not so bad demons, neither of which I wish to speak to. As me being my own self-sufficient creator, having my own direct contact with Prime Creator, at least I feel that way. I don't need or require a middleman to reach such a conscious state. And if other people do, or they want that type of connection with the middleman or another expression of our Savior or our Creator or whatever term you deem necessary, then that's good and well too. Nobody is wrong here in their feelings. Only to others that we judge them that, oh, they're lost, they're confused, they're being tricked by Satan. No. It's all part of the game here. It's all part of this reality. It's all part of the infinite experience. And I would imagine God would have such a sense of humor that this would be a bit funny to Him, that we're bickering, trying to figure this out in a very clever and engaging way. So this is very healthy. Working
Yeah,
out.
that's beautiful, man. Like I used to be quite hardline Christian when I first, as most Christians are when they first become Christian, quite hardline, and that might probably puts a lot of people off, and that's why you get such an anger from people about Jesus, because you got too many hardline people who act like they know everything, and they don't. And the spiritual world is so much deeper than what we get that people understand, and when I talk to and listen to people like yourself, FMX Radio, yeah, you hear so many other people's stories about their spiritual experiences, and you can't tell me that these hardline Christians have it all figured out, and I agree with that, Tribune. However, I don't think we can throw Yeshua, if you want to use that term, right out of the picture, because it's beautiful. You've got a savior. I mean, how else can we stand pure in front of God? Yeah, you know, with you mentioned how
With
bad
blood.
our sins are,
With
right?
continuous
and
blood.
how we've all failed. We've all failed the law. How can we stand pure in front of God unless someone wipes that away? And for me, I'm happy to receive that in Christ. If it's not Christ, it's God, then cool. But I'm just happy I've got God. I've got the Creator.
There's nothing wrong with that. That sounds very lovely. Although I will have to rebuttal just slightly and say that I'm not ashamed to meet God, and if such an event were to happen and I could physically meet such a being, I do not feel ashamed with the life that I live to meet him as I am now. For it is he who created me the way I am, and who would know me better than he? So to judge me for the creation that I am seems unbecoming of such a being. And it would be more likely that if I got to choose, I would rather talk to Jesus, because it seems more relatable and he seems more down to earth. And very intimidating to talk to a being of all creation. So Jesus, as I would have loved to sit down at all the questions, all the missing time of his life. Imagine what we could learn for such a being, if he did exist or does exist, either or. That would be my first stop. I would like to ask the questions of all the different missing stories. Very enlightening conversation.
Yeah, very, very much so.
I have a
like I
question for. I do have one last question for you in regards to this while we're on the Jesus subject, and it's in regards to when Jesus said. I guess just ask what you think about this quote where Jesus says, "Be warned for those who will come, for there will be a day when people will come in my name, claiming that I am the Christ. But do not be fooled, for you know who your Savior is." Do you think that he was talking?
what are you reading out of? What are you reading that one out of? What's that?
That's the Bible. I can't remember the verse, but it's the one where he's talking about where be warned of the people who will come in my name, claiming that I am the Christ.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So the words, right? He says, "Be."
False prophets. Beware of false prophets.
Well, he says, does he say, "Beware of false prophets who come in my name, claiming that I am the Christ"? Isn't that how it goes?
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So, that's clear on its face as well, right? Jesus was trying to say in that moment, because he's always quoting from the Old Testament, right? He's quoting from Isaiah in that for when he says, "You know who your Savior is," because Yahweh or Yadve Odve, or however you want to pronounce it, if you can even pronounce it, says in Isaiah that there is no Savior but me, and I share my esteem with no one, and at my right hand there is no one beside me.
Yeah. So I definitely believe in one God. I'm not hardline Trinitarian, if that's what you're coming to.
But the New Testament, doesn't the New Testament specifically says that Jesus will be at God's right hand?
The right hand, yeah, and will be seated alongside him right hand of the Father.
But that's not what it says in Isaiah, right? That's a direct contradiction.
Sorry, you'd have to go over that again so I can do it specifically. I did think about it at but
I'm sorry, I couldn't really hear you.
okay. So we'd have to go specifically over that again if you want me to. Without reading it in front of me, I just can't address it straight up.
Fair.
But yeah, if we're talking about one God, and I agree with that, but there's talks all through the Old Testament of a Messiah coming. Do you would recognize that?
The talks of the Messiah.
Yes.
So there was actually talks of multiple Messiah. Messiah just means anointed one in the Old Testament, which David was a Messiah. Solomon was a Messiah. All the kings of the Old Testament, the prophets, were basically Messiah. They were anointed by God to give the laws and to make the predictions of things that were to happen, but only because they were saying with their predictions that they should still follow the law. Because remember, in Deuteronomy, it warned you that other people are going to have the ability to do miracles and predict the future and do signs and wonders, but you know who who to follow based on what laws they tell you to follow. So, hence the Deuteronomy 13 line there. But I'm sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought.
So do you follow Judaism, the laws?
No, I don't believe in it. I think that Judaism is more a more correct interpretation of the scriptures, but I don't think that the scriptures are true. I think that it's a control mechanism to get me to not practice spirituality, to not practice telling the weather, to not be able to practice trying to tell the future at all, to try to set myself up better for the future, right? To basically leave that all up to chance and hope for the best.
Yeah, see, I grew up, when I got involved with Christianity, it was a very spiritual thing. So I didn't have this obey, do these rituals, this, that, for salvation or anything like that. It was a very spiritual thing. So I never was, so the Christian experience I had was not trying to shut heaven off. It was, if anything, it was super spiritual and sort of going to the other extreme.
Sure.
So I guess we all have different experiences and what affects our own views on things.
I definitely wouldn't consider myself not spiritual. I definitely consider the Abrahamic faiths in general, like not just Christianity, Judaism and Islam, right? I think that they're all pretty hardcore in what they require. In that if we were to bring something like that, like the specific instructions in full force with government backing, I think that so many people would be against it, would see it as clear tyranny, including the
government
Christians.
Backing. So yeah,
the Bible clearly says that the government's ordained by God, right, and that we should.
We're gonna fix that because we're not.
Yeah. So you're talking about in the New Testament, Paul said about the rulers.
I mean, we're smart enough now to know the parts of the Bible that was clearly wrote by Julius Caesar and his cronies.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to follow the one. We have a brain now. We can discuss these things till our face turns blue, but we're not going to be killing anybody and lying and screwing each other's wives and
here's
all
the thing.
Stuff.
Yeah,
right?
Chris, let me say this real quick though, right? To say that, well, obviously we can tell which parts of the Bible were rewritten because of this clear thing here and in this right here, right? But my thing is this: how do you know, just because there's some parts that you agree with and some parts that you don't, that the parts that you agree with were also written by those messed up individuals, but that's just the parts that are designed to give it some credibility? Because if it strays too far away from what people want and too far away from what people see as reality, then people are not going to accept it and go along with it. And ultimately, the ultimate goal of any religion really is to get people to believe it. It's like, believe this and do not believe what you believed previously. And if you believe this, then your actions are going to reflect that. And so that's why they say action or faith without works is dead, right? So it's not enough to believe it. Now you have to act on it. It's just a sales funnel. We say that you just have to believe it at first because that gets your foot in the door. Then once you start believing it and you start studying it, you realize, oh shit, I'm supposed to actually follow these rules and stuff. And then you start following the rules and stuff. It's like, wait a second. These other rules are completely incongruent with these rules. Why is that? Oh, it's because of this deception here. And then you realize that the New Testament's a deception, and now you're left with just the Old Testament. And then, well, if you come that far, why do you still believe in the Old Testament then? The Old Testament's the most brutal one.
I completely agree with you. People pick and choose what scriptures they want to use. New Testament today, when we want God's love and grace, and then tomorrow when we want the money, it's the Old Testament. We want tithing. So yes, people pick and choose, and we have lots of negative experiences in religion, and I completely agree with that. And I've gone through all of that. I don't belong to a church these days because of such experiences. I've had all of those, and I've tried to run churches as well. So I've sort of been right around the block. However, the experience of spirituality and God and the Creator and His Spirit empowering us, His children, is real and true. And to me, the story of Jesus, let's just call it a story, makes logical sense still. So, but if I didn't experience the truth spiritually, then I wouldn't believe it. I'd get on with something else. And it's the same when you talk about flat Earth. If you experience a flat Earth, it's flat. If you experience it stationary, it's stationary.
I actually just realized
our experiences.
I actually just realized that I never actually got. I've been doing this a lot in this show. I've been rambling a bunch because there's just so much to unpack with this conversation. But the point of me bringing up like that we can say that certain parts of the Bible were written by different parts, and that was that if you're going to say that, well, certain parts are written by the government, like the give unto Caesar's what is Caesar, right, and that all governments are ordained by God, right, all authority is ordained by God, then show me in any of the translations, right? Go back as far as you want. Show me the oldest one. I guarantee you, even the oldest one is still going to say that the government is ordained by God and that you have to obey them. I guarantee that. Some of the stuff will change, but the hardcore stuff will not.
And Rob, I got a question for you, Rob.
Yep.
Have you read the entire Bible?
New Testament multiple times and lots of the Old Testament. I haven't read the Old Testament from cover to cover.
Have you read the Bhagavad Gita?
No.
How about
I've read Gnostic
Quran?
Gospels. I haven't read the Quran, but I have more respect for Muslims than I ever have these days.
Okay, so then what makes the Bible correct? Since the Bhagavad Gita outdates, allegedly, the Bible by many millennia.
Well, that goes back to the argument of dating, doesn't it? That Tribune brought up earlier. And you can argue that one forever. Now, all I'm saying is that these are religions, Muslim, Islam, Judaism, Christianity. It does all go back to one God. And they still consider God to be one. And as the great creator, the I am. That's who I go back to. And that's my source.
I want to address this comment real quick by Effed Up World. And obviously, Joe, I respect you. Much love for, in the flat earth community. But when I see stuff like that, it's like that is the same begging the question Glober logic that we're fighting against, right? So what if all the historians have agreed to set a day and set the calendars and tweak it, right? We've already come to the conclusion that there is a worldwide conspiracy that was powerful enough to convince us that we were lied about the shape and very nature of the thing that we were living on. why would we not extend that power to the religions that they give us?
You would almost have to. Something that big, all the big ones, if you look at it closely enough with a microscope, it's all tied together. Religion, money, the shape of the earth, these conversations we're having now. It's not, none of it's accidental, and all of it's connected. Just if you look hard enough, it's there. It's very there. You can see it. You can even taste it and feel it, some of it.
Yeah, and different civilizations do not say it's 2023. The Mayans don't say that. Hindus don't say that. I don't think the Chinese even say that.
They don't.
Yeah, they're a whole nother year. Yep.
That's Western. So that is the argument from incredulity. I've been exposed to the Western cultures, and this is what I've grown up knowing. So this is what is superseded for everything else. But I mean, honestly, if you dig in and look at what everybody else is looking at, then you can start to see that it's way more nuanced than that. And that's even with the when it comes to the comparing the gods to one another, right? Like I've seen people doing that. I've even been guilty of doing that too. Like, okay, the Greek gods are the same as the Roman gods, or the same as the Egyptian gods, and this is how, and try to tell a story that relates to them all. But ultimately, when you try to do that, you find that there are inconsistencies, even with the characters of the gods themselves, right? Like the head pantheon god of the Greeks, right? Zeus. The only similarity that he has with the, let's say, the Odin pantheon, or
Odin would destroy Zeus, just so everybody knows.
Absolutely.
Odin's number one.
Like the only similarity is that they both use lightning, or that's it.
Right.
Like they're other than that, they're completely different, and the personality of them is different.
Odin.
That's super funny. I actually read a story about I can't remember who wrote it, but it was a story telling about how the Egypt gods came to be, and it was a story of how Typhon, the great serpent god of the sea, came to challenge Mount Olympus and Zeus, and actually won. He whooped their butts, decimated Mount Olympus, and sent all the gods running, and they hid their form by transforming into animals. And then these different animals you can correlate to the different animals that were depicted to the gods of Egypt, right? But even that is a story that is stretching, grasping at straws to try to make it make sense, because we want to believe in any truth that we can in these stories, right? We do want to believe that not everything that was told to us is a lie. But do we know that? No.
And they always make it about incest, don't they? Every story, all of them, the gods, Adam and Eve. So they always throw the incest in there. It's weird. Like, stop doing that.
Man, Effed Up World wants to come on in 10 minutes. I'm already 40 minutes longer than I wanted to be.
Oh, shoot. Something interesting I heard on a stream, I can't remember which one it was. Someone was talking about how J.R.R. Tolkien, it might have been on Iron Rail Media. They were talking about how that might have actually been historically written about from other historical like scriptures or texts or something like that, and that a lot of history gets erased over time. So what we consider fantasy now was real back then. I don't really know if that's true or not, because J.R.R. Tolkien didn't even finish his own books. His son had to finish the stories because he passed away. But there's a lot of stuff in history that we cannot prove actually happened. Like, for example, my great-great-grandfather who came over here from Ireland, I can't prove he existed other than the fact that I'm here and alive. I can prove to you that my mom is alive, my dad's alive, because I can put them on screen, show you my birth certificate, show you blood samples, and I can show you all that. But that still wouldn't prove to you that those were my parents.
Max, I'm with you, Andrew. As far as I'm concerned, before I was alive in 1984, this whole place didn't even exist. And you're all just figments of my imaginations.
And Dave Weiss talks about that a lot with the World Fairs. That's a really trippy thing to look at. And then the Library of Alexandria.
The Akashic Records.
I do want to take a second to shout out Space Tad. I've been kind of ignoring the Rockfin chat, so I do apologize, but shout out for the $10 donation. Very generous. Thank you, my friend. And shout out for the mugs. Guys, if you have ordered some Tribune merch, and I've already gotten some pictures from Mr. Jeremy Bird, much love, but if you have gotten some merch, then feel free to send me some pictures so that I, too, can make a fire commercial. Thanks.
Has anyone read the visions of Sundar Selvaraj Singh? He's an Indian Christian holy guy who,
Rings a bell.
yeah, beautiful. I think you'd really enjoy them, eh? Like the visions of Sundar Salvaraj Singh or something like that. It comes up straight away if you Google it. And he's got some neat experiences that he detailed in writing. He was like a monk who just had all these visions, and he talks about the afterlife and the experiences that he had, and he saw people die and pass over to the other side.
Hey, I'll be right back. You guys hold it down. Appreciate it.
And he talks, yeah, and it's some really interesting stuff. I think, given that this is the topic of the day, I think you'd really enjoy that.
Yeah, check it out. It definitely rings a bell. I've heard other people mention that name before. I more than likely have seen a TikTok. Everything's on TikTok now, even stuff that's not even people who aren't even alive anymore are getting snippets of great quotes or speeches that's been said throughout time is now coming back up to the surface in the internet of TikTok. So yeah.
All right, I'm going to read something real quick here, and I'm not going to tell you what book it's from, but I want everyone to try and guess what this is from. Is it religious? Is it from Mark Twain? Is it from Lord of the Rings? I want you to tell me. All right, and I just opened up to a random page, okay? In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place.
Supreme Lord, huh?
And the versions of the Bible that I have read, it's not in there.
Is it a Tolkien book?
Nope. I can open to another random page and just read this stuff all day long.
Okay. Let me look in the comment section if anybody knows what the hell that is. Bill, I know you know this is Tapered Bodies, Rethink Lilith, Shifty Eyes. Y'all know what the hell Andrew talking about? Read another one, Andrew. Do one more. One
more. Okay, I'll just pull up another random page. I'll go towards the back. Try and get like a short one this time. Okay, here we go. And satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of one's existence are the atrocities of their minds. These all sound like really good messages, right?
It sounds like
it's poetry, essentially, right? I'll just go ahead and tell you.
Yeah.
I'm reading out of the Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita, huh?
Yeah, it's the Hindu version of the Bible, but it's structured differently. But it has all the same exact messages of the Bible. It's just poetry.
Do you have a copy by chance of the Codex Gigas? Gigas Codex?
No, I don't. I've never even heard of it.
Never heard of it? Oh, bro, Google it. Google. I would do it. I'm not. This isn't my stream. I can't pull nothing up. The Codex Gigas is supposedly written by this monk who sold his soul to the devil and wrote down all the important knowledge of man in one book in one night.
All right, I just looked it up. The Codex Gigas is the largest extant medieval illuminated manuscript in the world at a length of 92 centimeters. That's a big book.
Big.
Wow.
Big,
holy shit.
Big.
That's like over a foot, isn't it?
Oh, it's over 4 feet.
Oh my God. Oh yeah, because what is it? 20 centimeters is 1 foot or something like that. Wow.
Yeah. Whole table to put it down and open.
Who has time to write that kind of stuff?
Yeah, supposedly somebody who's about to die on. I forgot the backstory. Surprised they didn't make a movie of it.
And there's a government website, loc.gov, says the Codex of Gigas, also known as the Devil's Bible, is a large 13th century manuscript from Bohemia, one of the historical Czech lands. Blah, 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 blah. Interesting.
This place has so many mysteries. We would take us years to go over everything. That's why it's good to be in this type of community where we can have so many different people focus on different aspects of this reality. We can't be all Christians. We can't be all agnostic. We can't be all researchers. We can't be all creators, content creators. We all can't be the listeners forever. We shift roles and we elevate each other and support each other to find these missing pieces of the puzzle and push each other to do better and think better and be stronger and more willed to attract these new thoughts, experiences.
Absolutely. And something to remember too about when people were writing these ancient scriptures and manuscripts back in the day, paper wasn't easy to make. And also ink wasn't easy to make, along with pens. And it would take them a very, very long time to write this stuff. So most people couldn't write one of those books in their entire lifetime. So it took multiple people to write it, which means there are going to be multiple interpretations to it, which is very easy to, at that point, cause, mistranslations, and, it's not going to necessarily be true.
Can I share a interesting spiritual experience I had?
Absolutely.
Many years ago, and it's got a flat Earth component to it, and I didn't even know about flat Earth in those days or consider it. So let's just say I had a lot of spiritual experience in a Christian worldview. I was it was a dream, so I was asleep. And while I was asleep, I felt immense power, like Spirit of God. And then I came lifting up out of my body, when I was lying in the bed. I was stuck in bed, I couldn't move. My spirit rises up out of my body, and then I just go flying at the rate of immense speed through the air, fully conscious. So I sort of leave the area we're in, and I'm flying for a while, and then next thing you know, I'm flying over a city that is like nothing I've ever seen before. It looked a little bit like the buildings out of like Aladdin's lamp, with the steeples at the top of their. But they looked vaguely cartoon-like, but not really. They were real, but they had that sort of look about them, with the steeples and the dome tops. And anyway, I was flying over this place incredibly fast. And like I say, it was an immensely powerful spiritual feeling at the time. I eventually ended up coming back down into my body and into my bed, where I woke up straight away out of it. Now, this is before I even knew of flat Earth, but I always wondered about the tops of these buildings. It was real. It was no just normal dream. There's nothing normal about this. And I've always wondered about, with what I saw there, is that something outside of perhaps the known lands that we know of today? Was I flying over these other cities, or and then I saw in the last years you've had these people talking about the dome tops and the energy generating buildings, and I thought, this is what these tops of these buildings were all like. Every single house/building had these dome tops on them that may be the energy generating buildings. And and then you put together all these little bits of information from people you hear about. And I'm not saying that this is definitely what that was, but it was an experience that sort of points towards that direction, and it was quite interesting.
Yeah, that's what's up.
Absolutely, man. That's an interesting story. That's crazy. I do want to take a second to wrap things up here. It's already 9:52. I wanted to end it at 9 before the Schooling the Globers, but we were having such a fantastic conversation, I just couldn't bear to end it. But it is the solstice, right? So I do want to go ahead and spend some time off of here. But let's go ahead and go around the panel. Let's give some final thoughts, and I'll play us out with some music, shall we?
I'll let Rob go first. He's our newest guest.
Yeah, I just want to encourage people just to follow, what I just call the Spirit of God, really. Follow the Spirit of God, it will lead you in the right path. Try not to be led by negative um, experiences. We all have them. And for genuine reasons, we turn our back on things or ideas. But I think if we just follow the Spirit of God, we follow love, and then it'll lead into the right direction. And we just got to know that we make our decisions based off love and off what's true and love, and it will all lead in the same place. Yes, there are inconsistencies in text and everything else that we can all bring up. But if we just follow the Creator, follow love, then we'll all end up in the same place.
Very well said, my friend.
Well
Very
said.
Absolutely.
Very well.
Absolutely.
Andrew, what about you? What you got going on?
I don't really have anything else to add other than what I've already said so far. I don't want to try and bounce on anyone's beliefs too much, but the problem I see is that a lot of people have baseless information on their beliefs that is fear-ridden, and it's really kind of, sorry to say it, a little pathetic. And in a couple of days is going to be the summit, and there's going to be some people on there that are definitely religious and Christian, including I think Sean from Kingdom to Context is going to be there.
Sean's a good guy, man. Very knowledgeable.
Oh yeah, he's a cool guy. Yeah. He's going to be on there. He doesn't always do religious stuff. He does very esoteric kind of presentations sometimes. So we have no idea what he's going to do. So don't miss out. I mean, I've already bought my ticket for the entire year. So that's about all I have. Everyone else, I hope you have a wonderful day, wonderful rest of your night, or wherever you're at.
Excellent. And of course, you'll find me at all the usual places. This week started going live on after work around the 2:30, 3 o'clock time over on my channel, Flatman X. And I've been spitting game like this, and we'll probably continue this conversation tomorrow after I get off work, catch that afternoon crowd. See if I can find a little spot there so that way I can still get things done in the evening. But I've been streaming all day afternoon since I got off, pretty much. It's been one thing to another. I didn't even get a chance to do my radio stuff, but it's all good. We can dance later, save for the weekend. We'll figure it out. It's all good. We got the Melodome coming up later on this week as usual. And what's tomorrow? Thursday. What's going on tomorrow? What's going down tomorrow? Troubling.
We have Globebusters Tech that's going to be happening,
right.
I believe, at 6 or 7. I can't remember.
All right, that's shit. We'll go over that again tomorrow. So what are y'all talking about? What y'all talking about tomorrow?
I have to go and look, dude. I'm the worst plugger ever.
It's all good. That's why I'm here. We're here to help each other. We're both brand new. We're both kind of the new kids on the block over here when it comes to this community. So it feels good. It feels good to be here. It feels good to have all the support. Shout out to Harmon and Karen B and everybody that's always in our chat and that's been around for a long time. That's giving us new guys, a little pat on the back at times. It really means a lot to us.
Oh, and one last thing, yeah. Skyler, you were just saying that Witsit is on right now doing Schooling the Globers. We're a little bit behind, so I'm going to check that out as I continue doing my coursework. So thank you for the reminder.
Word up. Yeah, so everybody, that's probably where we'll be at. I'm going to go out, relax, and get ready for bed my damn self. Do it again tomorrow. Y'all have a blessed rest of the week, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.
Absolutely, guys. You guys take it easy. YouTube, Rockfin, don't go anywhere. We're going to go ahead and play you out. Peace out, y'all. Let's go ahead and get rid of that and get back to the title page here. Where are we? Boom. Legendary conversation, man. This was awesome. Glad that we got some different perspectives in on the panel. Usually we get different perspectives in the chat, and that's good too, but nothing quite beats the face-to-face interaction. So huge shout out to Joe for coming on and helping us chop it up. So let's go ahead and also shout out the rest of the guests as well. We know them. We love them. Everybody's got their own stuff going on. So make sure you stay tuned, right, to catch all the great stuff that's coming. I, for one, cannot wait for the next FMX radio. Jamming out is always such a good time. But only when you guys provide these fantastic suggestions, right? I'm brain farting on words. You're going to have to forgive me. Long night ahead. So we're going to go ahead and call it, guys. But shout out to everybody who supported the show. Shout out to everybody in the comments. We'll just do this one real quick. We got Matt Prince, Caven. We got Adrian Quintanas, no longer on the ball. We also have, let's real quick, Stephen Davies, Unexplored Plane. Okay, we got a YouTube link to click there. Awesome. Space Tad, Fishhead, Montana, Cody Ford, Flatman X, and Jeremy Bird, of course. All right. And then you lovely folks over on YouTube, much love. We are going to play us out with a song here in just a second. We got JK. Let's all transfer to the other live. Yep, that is right. Go on over to Witsit here after the outro and check out that awesome video. All right, Mad Mac, Nominal, Lilith, Bill Wheel, FE Nation, JK, Andrew B, Thrashless Smith, Mad Mac, FMX, Tapered Bodies, James GP, Flat Sabbath, Howard, F'd Up World. Sorry, F'd Up World, you were too late to the party. What are you going to do? All right. Plain Reality, Thomas Morgan, Duke Nukem, Rethink Inc., today is a new day to start again, and Thrashless Smith, TJ Trusty. If I miss anybody, I apologize. It is what it is. You are still appreciated, though. Folks, be sure to check out the Etsy shop. We just dropped some new merch there. We got some trippy wear. We got some unisex gear. We got some gear for the females. We got some mugs. Get your Tribune mug today. And probably going to do a tea line here pretty soon. I think that'd be a good idea. What do you guys think? Troubling Tribune tea, Troubling tea, Tribune tea. There's so many alliterations that you can go. You can't not come up with a good title. All right, folks. I will see y'all tomorrow at Glowbusters Tech and in the chat over at Witsits. Peace.